Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Have you ever seen a bear fight a duck? Arr, arr, growling. Yeah. Here we go.
This is what you're shooting for, Bill.
Okay, shooting. No.
And then how about this?
Make a shot, please. Send it back. Yeah. Football. Here we go. Let me get down in my stance. Let me smack some of these guys out of the way. Coach, you're with me. Yeah, here we go. Bears, ducks, quack, quack.
The Stars shoot it into the empty net and score. Essa Lindell from center ice. 2:03 to go in the third period. The insurance, all smiles for Dallas.
Kulikov has it up the near wall, but the Rangers have it. Gustafson with a heave on it, scores! It may have went off to something in front, but the Rangers score in overtime, and they take a 2-1 series lead with a 5-4 win.
Eric White into the front court, Boston down 6. Holiday's got it. Going to step past Nimmark, throw out on the wing to Jaylen Brown. Now Tatum open, wants the straightaway 3. Got it! 3-point game.
The game is over. The Mavericks take a 3-0 series lead with a 116-107 win over Minnesota.
First pitch. Karen swings and drives another one to left. How about another one? Where's it going to come down? Oh, my! Lift off for Josh Karen. 4-2, Nebraska.
Baseball. And what a thrill for any player to be able to come to the side of the College World Series and play.
Josh Karen stays red hot in the championship game. 6 home runs in the tournament. 16 on the year. He's tied the game.
You know, everybody's good, and you know, you got to play great to win, and so we're excited for the challenge.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. DB, it seems like we have been gone forever.
It does.
It's just an extra day.
I know. And I feel like, plus I saw you over the weekend, so
it doesn't feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. I feel like we
broke up the monotony, and we were actually here.
Yes.
I mean, so shout out to the staff. I think Bill did it by design. He and Katie, they gave us a couple of their best.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did a great job.
It was incredible.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
And apparently I just want you to know I'm like Michael Jackson this morning.
Yeah.
I am not alone.
You're not alone?
Yeah. A lot of people like to dry rub wings. You may have not gotten any because
I did not. No, I didn't eat a single thing here.
Yeah. So
not by choice. It just, I didn't.
So you know what I did?
What's that?
I ate the bottom half of one of the unwrapped wraps, and that was it.
Yeah, because you were sitting next to me while you were doing it, and you were like, I could tell that's all you'd eaten all day.
Everybody wanted to know why I was doing that, and I was like, well, number one, I don't want the wrap. Number two, I just wanted and the lettuce would have been fine.
Yeah, but you just wanted the meat.
Yeah, and I hadn't been, and it's not, they weren't huge, but yeah.
Can I tell you something about wings real quick?
Yeah.
So I went to a place recently,
okay,
where I love their wings, and I got the regular wings rather than the boneless, like I normally do, because I like their regular wings.
He said regular,
and the bone-in wings. Traditional is the traditional regular. What's the difference? So I get the regular wings instead of the boneless because I pretty much go boneless everywhere else now. But I was like, this place I really like their traditional wings.
That's incredible.
And you know what? Should have got the boneless.
I just don't understand. Is it the work?
Yes, that's part of it. So I have this weird, I'm a bit of a particular person, DB.
I was gonna call you a boner, but I don't think that's the term I was looking for.
I think you're like bonehead.
Yeah, you're anti-bone,
bone in. So,
gosh,
that's
incredible.
I don't know what. I just feel like it wasn't as good. I feel like it wasn't as good.
Yeah, I don't know of any meat.
Yeah.
that is better cooked off the bone than on.
Because you're going what, like a tomahawk is better on
when
the
it
bone,
comes to flavor.
bone and ribeye.
Even grilled chicken, like a whole chicken is significantly better than just a breast. A bone-in split breast is significantly better than a grilled chicken breast. A bone-in thigh is better than a thigh.
At what cost?
Oh Lord.
To my convenience.
Messy fingers? I don't
don't like the messy fingers. That is a thing.
I don't either.
That is a thing.
I actually cut Micah's meat this weekend. I felt kind of weird. I just couldn't stand to see him waste meat on some tremendously smoked eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this weird thing. It's very specific, and I'm sure it's going to shock you, right? Because I'm generally a super
You
normal.
have some issues.
Oh, 100%. I'm generally a super normal guy, right? But I really don't like getting like stuff on the back of my hand.
I don't. So you
like it's very like
I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna ride with you on that because I can't stand anything in my nails.
Yeah.
So
I really don't like that either.
I look at people's.
Like if I don't have,
I don't know how we got here, but I'm going to probably be checking out your hands. It just even they may listen, so I don't know.
Like if
people come to groom to do the dog's nails, right?
Yeah.
So $15 mobile, greatest thing going. Okay,
go ahead.
Well, you have to hold the dogs, right?
Yeah.
And one more than the other.
Yeah.
But they're amazing. Like, and she's just giving them love the whole time. And it's so this and it's so that. Shane, I was hoping and I have the camera on me. Shoot. I don't want to be on the camera. And I just happened to glance at the hands. And I was like, it immediately gave me the willies.
Yeah.
So I can't really control it. It's just like it's like when I see
stuff.
It's like when I see random hair. Like there should never be hair in my sink. There just shouldn't.
It's never happening.
Nope. Nope. Give the room the once over. Take a look. There's just certain triggers that I know it sounds ridiculous, but
no, like even
there's just some bodily things I just can't.
Even the idea of having like stuff on the back of my hand like bothers me. Just like thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Like like how people will dip their hand like a chip in the salsa jar, like the opening's not big enough for your whole hand. So you're like if it's at the bottom, if you're like at the bottom, it like gets on the back of your hand, right?
You're a child.
If I don't have a bowl, like that stuff staying at the bottom of the jar, I'm not messing with that.
Oh, I get it.
It really, really bothers me.
I get it.
If you enjoyed this departure from any sort of
many sports
normalcy, you probably were a fan of our guy Bill Walton.
Yeah, I was. And before we get to that, do you have to fight the people that try to cheat the system getting on the interstate from the inside lane on Harrison? Or do you miss that?
I generally don't run into that.
It's unbelievable how people try to maneuver to go west or east to get on the interstate.
Yeah.
And there will be people on the inside lane that will hold up just regular oncoming traffic that aren't getting on the interstate.
Yeah, they don't care at all.
Because they want to wait till the last minute to get over. Yep. They want to skip by everybody else in line, and they'll hold it up just to have somebody let them in. I'm like, don't let them in.
Yeah, I don't ever let those people in. I'm not doing that.
They're making a conscious effort to get in front of like 17 cars.
That's one of those things where it's like,
I watch it every morning. It's a marvel.
I have this, not like the movie.
I did watch a little Endgame last night.
Endgame's a good movie.
And it was weird because the ending is like 41 minutes.
Yeah.
From the time he sits down and takes his helmet off. Like,
yeah.
And where did this bring you back to? It's brought you back to me.
Well, they had like 18,000 people in the end of that movie. I mean, it's got to be a long movie or a long ending.
18K.
That is right. Like one of the best moments, though, where on your left.
Cap, you there? Cap, you there?
Yeah.
On your left.
That's like an all-timer.
Oh, Lord.
I love that moment.
I got chills throughout my body.
Yeah, I go all Taylor Martinez on that. I got chills throughout my body.
Yeah.
No, but our guy, our one Bill Walton.
He's incredible.
Passed away, I believe yesterday. We found out yesterday.
People Shane, you remember people hating on me over Bill Walton? I actually what purists I think kind of got away from liking Bill Walton. I hung in there with Bill to the end, even though he drove me crazy. I thought he was funny, and I watched a special about 3 years ago on why he lives off the grid.
Yeah,
blows through so many bowls. No, I'm
It
dead.
doesn't get any better than this.
I'm dead serious. Like,
no, I know.
Like, I thought he was like one of the coolest people ever, and why he originally left Portland, which I didn't know the story.
I don't think I know that story.
Yeah, he asked out of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So they won the title. He missed the first 2 years, won the title in, I think, 79.
78. I think.
78.
Yeah.
Sat out the next year, then asked for a trade the following year because he didn't like the way that the Trailblazers medical staff
and
front
with his
off
feet.
treated players that were hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he asked out to go to, another tremendous franchise in the Clippers.
I'll say.
So I was a big Bill Walton guy.
So I appreciate him as a human a lot, and as a person, and a lot of the things that he like. This is a dude that had such a severe stutter he could not speak in class, and he ended up talking for a living. Like, I really appreciate that about him. I also think he's wildly underappreciated as a player. What I had a hard,
people do hate on him.
we're gonna get to that for a second, because I have a comp here that I don't think people are like, but I think I'm right.
Of course.
What's new here? Yeah, well, that's shocking. But
Shane, I like your balloons, by the way.
the thing I had a hard time with,
They're nice.
with Walton was, I remember when he like did sort of normal games.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
was really good. Like, I remember him
With
doing
snapper.
Yeah,
you going back to
like
NBC?
NBA, like when he was doing high leverage NBA finals or playoff games.
NBA and NBC.
And
he was with Snapper Jones.
He was really, really good.
Yeah.
And so, like, I had a really hard time when he sort of divulged into this other like version of himself, just because I was like, I know, like, I liked the basketball with the occasional goofiness, and then it became straight goofiness. And so they put him on like Pac-12 games. And so it kind of worked out for what he was doing.
Conference of Champions.
The timing is incredibly ironic.
Yeah.
But so that's where I had a hard time enjoying the commentary after a while, because I really liked him when he sort of did it more normal. It's kind of like the Dick Vitale thing. Like, if you hear a Vitale
Is that
game,
I was just going to say,
Yes.
who was the guy that you and I spent a weird amount of time going back to listen to old games versus new games?
Yeah, it was Vitale. Because he used to have, like, even not that long ago, would have like a normal, like a somewhat normal, like, delivery, and then every once in a while he'd be like, "Oh, he's a PTPer." Or
okay, so do you remember? I think it might have been over text, and then we called because I know we have this weird relationship, but whatever. I think I said, "Hey, such and such and such and such game is on."
Yes, yeah.
What? When was that? Was that the 90s?
I thought it was early 2000s.
It was Indiana and somebody.
I thought it was early 2000s.
Are you sure?
It wasn't Indiana, Kentucky, was it?
Nope. This is a Big Ten game.
Yeah, that was a 90s game.
Okay.
That was a 90s game.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I was like, I just remember the graphics.
Because I went back, because I was trying to find sort of when it went off the rails for him.
I think I think we arrived at early 2000s.
Yeah, like 2005-ish.
Yeah.
And so I went back to try and sort of find, because there was I think a Duke North Carolina game.
He did a ton.
Yeah. All of them that were on ESPN, he did basically.
It used to drive me up the wall.
But there was sort of a tipping point in the.
Except when Stackhouse did the reverse dunk against Duke. He's like, oh, it's incredible, baby.
That's the thing, is like he went from hey, this like commentator who had sort of this interesting style when he got excited to. I mean, we've sort of seen the same thing happen with Gus Johnson over the years.
Yeah,
as well.
I remember Dick Vitale would go in on Dante Calabria's hair.
Yeah,
he had this pretty. He's like, I'm jealous of his hair, baby. Oh, a guy like with hair like that could hit the three. And I just was like, let's get back to this run that Duke is going on.
But he kind of went from like, okay, normal most of the time, and he just sort of leaned more and more and more into the bit, and then he got lost in it. It's sort of.
I don't get the hate for Gus, though, to be honest. Listen, I'm sure that's a hot take. I know definitely in this room I'm in the minority. I don't get the hate for Gus Johnson.
I like him in certain situations.
I like Gus.
I think I prefer him in football than I do basketball, I think. I really like him on college football games. College basketball, it seems like there's too many games. He doesn't stay on top of the info quite as much, and that bothers me. But
and I've never worked with him, so I don't know about show prep and stuff.
I don't
like
either.
that.
Like maybe he's incredibly professional and
or unprofessional.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I do know on football games, there's not a ton of people you won't call on a big play or a big moment more than Gus Johnson.
Okay, at least you can see that.
Oh, 100%. Even like in one-offs in basketball games, if you have a huge moment, having Gus over that call is incredible. But if you're watching, like obviously we watch a ton of Big East basketball, and sometimes he's just not real sharp.
Yeah.
And that,
So you thought Bill was purposely Shane, play clip 3. Play clip 3 from Bill Walton. Do you think this is intentional, Ravi?
Your name is Dave, right? What's your name again? You're Dave, right? Is that you, Dave? Where have you been, man? I'm Bill.
Yep,
and we're at Stanford today, and we have got the game of the millennium tonight.
It doesn't get any better than this. I just got laid. Take a bite out of it while it's lit.
Well, it's lit.
Say, oh, I'm kidding.
How about the face plant here? Today, I have everything. Oh, I love my chocolates. Oh.
I do think he's doing it.
That's one of the great.
I do think he's doing it on purpose.
You thought that was on purpose?
But I also
he may have just finished a good bowl.
So, well, it depends on what you mean by on purpose. Like, I think it's real. Like, I think that's who he is.
My man was clearing 5-footers, no problem. No problem.
I think.
Well, he had the height to do it.
Big guy, 6'11".
I don't understand how they let you just go on air like that, too.
Well, that's why I ended up on Pac-12 After Dark a lot. That's kind of playing to your audience there a little bit.
So, like, it just became like, oh, that's just Bill? Because anybody else would probably lose their job.
Yes, 100%.
You can't come to work baked.
No.
Well,
most places.
No, I won't even say that.
Most places you can't. Let's just keep rolling.
I know, but there are so many people that would beg to differ.
Yeah, it depends on what you do. Depends on what your job is.
So I don't know if I would use most. We get 15 calls right now. People would be like, "Really?
I'm high at work right now, bud."
Really?
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think it's who he really is. Like, I don't think he's faking it, if that's what you mean by on purpose. But I do think he made a conscious decision to kind of just lean into his personality.
Just sabotage the broadcast.
Well, I mean, I don't know if sabotage. Like, I don't know if that's how he saw it.
So I think people that started to get away from him late thought that he was intentionally taking away from the broadcast. That's what I think happened.
I think he was just hanging out with his friend Dave.
Yeah,
like genuinely. That's what I thought.
Your name is Dave,
like,
right?
There's probably people that
he had to be like. Can you just imagine what kind of temperament you have to have?
Well, I think it helps that they were actually really close.
Yeah,
because if you're not friends with that person,
yep,
you're probably not dealing with that.
I understand.
Right. But he also kind of, I think I appreciate what I assume is some self-awareness on Dave's part, that like people were tuning into a lot of those games just for Bill. Like, there's not a lot of people watching like Washington State, Oregon State on a Tuesday night normally. And so I think Dave probably understood the dynamic of what was happening there, but I think it was a real part of who he was. And I don't know, I can appreciate that at the very least, right? Even if the broadcast wasn't for me necessarily. Like, I really appreciate people who are just like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And not as an excuse to be a jerk, but as just like hey, this is me. This is authentically who I am. And if that's not for you, that's okay. I'm not going to take that personally, and you don't have to take it personally, but I'm not going to change who I am so you like me.
Do you think people that watch because we get into this now a lot, and I think it's because they command so much money. Do you think people get into roles when they listen to broadcasts?
Like who's doing play-by-play? Who's
like
doing
the roles of each and how well they're being executed?
Maybe not consciously.
Do you think our ear has gotten better with I mean, we just saw a guy get moved out of the #1 game slot for a guy that's never done a broadcast.
Which is a joke, by the
right?
way.
Greg Olson is going to the second best game for Tom Brady.
And
So
Greg Olson's incredible at his job. He's really good at what he does.
He's okay. I don't listen. I get. Hey, we don't have to agree.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your objections.
I think he's okay.
Who is better currently?
So that's kind of where I'm going to land the plane. I only know if you're bad. I don't really know when you're great.
Fair.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't.
So I suppose my
people for whatever, a lot of people don't like Billis. I like Billis.
I think Billis is good at what he does.
I
think some people find him condescending.
Is that okay?
I think that's what some people don't like about him. I also think I think a lot of people read into his off the basketball life.
Oh, like his takes?
Yeah, his social takes and stuff like that, and they bring that to the table
because he quotes rappers.
No, there's some other stuff. But
he's a ball guy that wears Air Force Ones.
Yeah, he's a Duke guy too. Nobody likes Duke guys.
They're okay.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. But I think
although
there's
JJ Redick.
Well, I mean, he's gonna be your new coach. Get used to it, bud.
I got thoughts. But here's my heart.
Yeah,
I don't dislike Redick's takes. I don't know if it's that he's kind of a tryhard or I have to think about it some more. But there's something because I like his podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him with LeBron, but
no, about his solo podcast.
I think he's fantastic.
It was really, really good.
Yeah, I'm all in on JJ.
Yeah.
Why don't you just do games like that? I like Stan Van Gundy, and I know he drives some people crazy.
Honestly, it's just his voice. If you could change his voice to a different anything, I'd be fine.
Really?
The content's terrific. Yeah, his voice drives me crazy.
That's the one thing you can't really get.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
That's just who he is and what he sounds like. So I try not to hold it against him, but it's not for me.
Interesting. My man TG. I get that. I think he's probably in the majority here. TG says, the difference with me is I'm okay with an analyst being over the top. With Gus, the problem is he's play-by-play. So that's kind of my thing. Because our palate, or it's not a palate because that's for taste, but as we've grown accustomed to broadcasts and what people do, we're more educated on the roles now too. Is that your sphere of influence?
I think that's right.
Because that's why I was going to ask you. That's why I asked you. Do you think we're more mature on how we listen to games because these people make so much money? For people used to hate on Doris Burke. Doris Burke is fantastic.
Doris Burke's incredible.
I never got the hate.
It's because she's a woman.
No,
it is.
No. So you think that's Beth Mullins? Because she's not bad either. Is that a hot take?
No, I don't think she's bad. Again, I love Doris Burke. I don't love Beth Mullins' tone, just her voice again.
Okay.
Again, I think she's really good at what she does. It is just the way it hits my ear. Same thing with Stan Van Gundy. Not that I love Doris Burke, but there's certain people who just their voice doesn't hit my ear right.
I think it's because they knew if we got Beth, we were 11 o'clock on a Saturday, and it may not have been a big game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because
I also think Beth predates Nebraska in the Big Ten, and so Nebraska fans would kind of make fun of Iowa for always being on the Beth Mullins game. And then once we were on the Beth Mullins games, we didn't like that a ton.
Oh, maybe
so I think there's a little bit Schadenfreude there a little bit.
It's kind of deep.
Coming back, we will have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I have found that mushrooms only help you. There are basically 3 million species of mushrooms around the world. Remember, fungus is singular, fungi is plural. This is called a glockenspiel, okay? Made famous. German thing. You broke it. No, I didn't break it. It comes apart like that. That's how you transport it. Please, don't you know anything about glockenspiels?
Can we stop interviewing the glockenspiel guy and focus on the game, please?
Looks good.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's TV. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk to our friend Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald.
Are you sure we're friends? Hello, friend. Hello.
He's a show friend, at least.
No,
friend
he's
of
good.
the show.
I like Sam. Sam's good dude.
And then at 9, we'll talk to Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball.
That's 50 Cent. First person I ever saw wear flat fronts.
Like pants?
Mm-hmm.
Like no pleats?
Yes. Way ahead of the game.
What year was this?
Man, Shane, was that like 18 maybe? 17?
It's been a minute, but yeah.
Maybe longer than that.
I feel like flat fronts have been a thing for a while.
So when he first went to D1 after he left his previous deal,
yeah,
he's a khakis and a polo guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little guy. So he used to always kind of come sauntering over to the booth, and we had him on all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Like his flat fronts.
No, you want to know what I really said in my head?
What's
This
that?
is going to sound ridiculous. I was like, oh, his thighs look smooth. I'll never forget because I said it to my honored talent, and he looked at me like he was going to. You ever thought about just like backhanding a guy like out of his chair? That's not me, by the way. Like somebody else. Like that. Like,
stop it.
Like that's what I. No, like the backhand, just like, and you fall back in your chair. I felt like that's what he wanted to do to me. But I had this little 5-minute spiel on how flat fronts or pleatless pants and shorts are made for skinny Europeans because whatever, right? Like that's just how I felt. So it's like, well, okay. But anyway,
that's a take.
So,
all right.
So Fitty was the first person that I ever saw rock those. And because then slowly suits started to phase out. You started not cuffing, you'd go straight leg at the bottom of your you like suits.
Yeah.
So Fitty was the first person I ever saw.
Yeah. Pleats are back, cuffs are not.
So pleats are back.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like, so if you're a bigger guy like me, pleats have always been kind of a move. Like it kind of like just helps with
keeps your stuff from gathering.
Well, like helps with the lines and of the like how it appears.
Okay.
But cuffs.
Note to self.
Yeah, cuffs.
That's why Gorman loves you. I remember one time I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
No, this might have been at the Jet Awards. And he pings like you think I'm nuts. Like Gorman's all over the joint.
I'll get my nuts.
And he's like, hey, you want to know one of the perks to having a coworker that loves fashion? Fashion. He just kind of kept on moseying. He's either I can't even remember. He's either bouncing the ball. He's
got like the tennis ball. He's always bouncing.
He makes me look chill. That's why I like CG. But that's the fun. And he just said it and kept on walking. I was like, I don't mean, I do what he's talking about, but I do remember you guys sitting over here in the corner after one show.
That's the first time I met him.
Was when you got
when I designed his wedding suit.
Dude, that's incredible.
That is and it was because of you, because you were like, because he said he had the like suit designer come and meeting him here.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, get Ravi over there.
Oh, I did tell him that. I said, that dude loves him some suits.
Yeah. And so he's like, all right, come sit
I
here.
didn't think he was going to do it, though.
Yeah.
And then it's like.
No, I sat there for like 2 hours.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm going to.
Like, I'm going to go home.
You guys do your thing back there at that table. Whatever works. So Aaron Fitt.
He'll be up at 9.
Yeah.
That's what's coming up on the show today.
Opening with Florida. Listen, this is careful what you ask for, right? The team that has no business. And I watch 888-638-4876. If you want to take me to task on Florida, no business being a 3 seed, and they could easily win against Nebraska. No business being a 3 seed. Strangest thing ever. I
no
believe
business like they're
not a 3. They had to be one of the last. They had to be
one of the last teams in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How they're not a 4, I don't know.
Well, because they're Florida.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they're capable of winning. I should Google. I should have done some. Sorry, Mike Boker. I should have done some research. I bet you. Do I say this out loud? Somebody's going to call me.
Might as well.
I bet you Florida didn't win more. Now they're 13-17 in the SEC,
which is bad.
I think the only weekend series they won
in conference.
Yep.
Okay.
Was LSU.
Okay, I'm looking it up
now. Here, I want a caveat.
Okay.
Maybe Georgia.
Okay.
At the end. But they didn't win more than 2 weekend series in conference. Say that out loud.
They didn't win more than 2 weekend series in conference.
I don't think so.
Ooh. So they got 2 out of 3 from A&M early.
Okay, that's 2 then.
In March.
They got LSU.
They got LSU at LSU. That's 2.
No, it's going to be a while because they hit the skids, I know. You may have to go to Georgia.
Got Mississippi State.
Fudge!
Okay, then they hit the skids. They lost all 3 to Missouri, lost 2 out of 3 to South Carolina, lost 2 out of 3 to Vandy, lost 2 out of 3 to Arkansas, lost 2 out of 3 to Tennessee, lost 2 out of 3 to Kentucky.
I knew it was a stretch.
And then they got Georgia. So they won 4 series throughout the year.
I stand corrected. I knew I was going off the top of
from April, basically all of April through half of May. Until the last weekend series against Georgia They did not. So for 6 weeks, they didn't win a weekend series.
It's not terrible for not having actually like.
It's like they're.
And I left myself open to. I could be wrong. It just doesn't seem like
It's
it.
like they're Creighton.
Yeah, that's.
Can't win any weekend series.
So you're 4 games under 500. That's no more bizarre than what LSU's run, just ripping through the tournament, and they played their way in.
Yeah.
Because how many times? So who was the first baseball guy we talked to?
We talked to Kendall, then we talked to Kyle.
So somebody was before that. Was it Kyle? Kyle won? Was it the first time we talked to Kyle? Because I'm like,
maybe.
I don't even know if LSU's going to get in.
Yeah. At
Do you
the time, it didn't seem like they were.
Yeah. And then they just go on a crazy
go on a
run.
little heater here to get into the
And
dance.
that's the hard thing about baseball.
Yeah.
It's why I love it, and it's why I also hate it, right? Apparently the Dodgers can't beat the Reds, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Reds were a team that 3 weeks ago, when we talked to Mr. Rogers outside of his neighborhood, we were talking in Chicago baseball, and I'm like, he goes, no, the Reds are the team that should be better. I'm like, the Reds rot. Right? Because they hit, I think they'd lost 7 out of 10. Baseball's just like that.
Weird.
It is.
I do love me some Ellie De La Cruz, though.
Yeah, I know.
But
if you could hit a ball 120 miles an hour,
yeah.
Can you imagine?
Although I can't decide if I like him or O'Neal Cruz better.
Listen, Pirates. Just go stay De La Cruz.
Yeah,
just you're safe.
I like Ellie, but O'Neal's kind of freaky too.
So the reason why I love baseball is because it is truly a game of managing failures.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like
100%.
And you have so much time to yourself.
And also you think about it. You just sit with it.
It's like,
right?
Oh, it could be from batter to batter. It could be from at bat to at bat. It could be from pitch sequence to.
That's why I always like.
I love baseball.
That's why I always liked pitching better than hitting.
Ooh.
Personally, well, I was better at pitching too, so that helped.
Pitching would be a nightmare.
I liked pitching because you got if you threw a bad pitch, you got to the next one right away. Like if you have a bad at bat, you sit there for a minute. If you have a bad fielding, you might sit there for all day, depending on where you're at, right?
So who's the only non-Cristo that's president of the Drew Cristo fan club?
You?
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah.
Right. And I have my good buddy.
He's started coming around too.
My little Debbie's buddy.
Yeah.
Degenerate Aaron. So we talk. He watches almost all Husker sports.
Okay.
I don't care if it's women's basketball. I don't care if it's volleyball, wrestling.
Love the commitment.
He stopped wearing Nikes cold turkey when Nebraska went to Adidas. And so I told him, and there's maybe one other guy, because there's just a couple guys that are always down on Cristo. And I'm going to save this for the break because he and guys like Sears, year 2 Sears from last year Sears, huge reason why I love baseball, and an even better reason why I love who I've now dubbed the Gritty Gang. As they have a winnable regional.
They do.
They have a winnable regional.
We will get to more.
We'll talk hashtag Gritty Gang.
We will get to more Husker baseball coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
This is your first ever baseball game doing this job, right?
This is a job?
That's true.
Well, I understand that it starts and then you play,
yeah,
but that the offense can't touch the ball and that the defense goes first and that there's no time limits and you just go until somebody says it's over. Sounds very much like a Dead show.
Sounds very much like a Dead show. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio, wrapping up hour number 1 here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. That's the one and incomparable Bill Walton.
I like that word.
Incomparable?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little ACT word for you. You want me to go spelling bee word for you? Is that
No,
better?
but do you like all the racial stereotypes we went through on Saturday? That was incredible.
I just can't believe your wife didn't know I was Indian.
I know, no idea.
Why would you ask his dad?
Why would you ask
Indian
his dad about chimichurri chili? Oh, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I missed this conversation.
Oh, it was one of many.
Did you hear what I asked her?
No.
I go.
I try not to pay attention.
I know. I was go. What color brown do you think I was?
Oh.
She's like, I don't know. People think I'm Mexican, and I was like, all right.
Wait, she's not?
I saw both her parents. She does not appear to be Mexican, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, that was interesting. Anyway, so what I was gonna say, why I love baseball.
Yeah.
Right. It's because it's such a grind, and it is
about
about
managing
failures,
Yeah.
man. And so, and you're with me all the time. We read the inboxes, we get the comments, and 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, it was, oh, man, is Childress any better than Christie? Like, we fired Christie, and there were similar numbers, and Childress is supposed to be this, that, and the other, and it's just like, there would be this doom and gloom after. We saw it just recently, 8 days ago, when they lost to, however many days ago that was, when they lost to Indiana.
Yeah.
Right, the sky was falling. You lose the opener in the Big Ten. You don't throw Sears. Everybody's up in arms.
Well, and then what did Bolt say? Hey, not throwing him was the right move. That's
Yeah.
all he said.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
So it's like, now I don't know if he knew that they could run off 5 straight. I did think he felt like they were built for it.
Well, and that they were going to win a couple at least. You've got your setup okay.
So he gets Sears as Player of the Year after kind of finding himself, coming out of the bullpen, getting into the starting role. Like that's baseball, right? It's overcoming when things don't go well. So I was saying this about my buddy Aaron. There was him, and there was another guy. Was it you? I don't know. I sent a message to, because I was really, this was weird. I almost went back to like I was playing. I was so excited for Drew to have a chance to take the bump in a meaningful game because he was getting hot. And I've been saying, I said, hey, just remember when he came out of the bullpen against Indiana a couple weeks ago, how he was fist pumping? He reminded me of Rick Vaughn. Then he has, in the finale, he puts together the back-to-back outings. I'm like, okay, he's ready. So, and I'm normally not, part of my downfall is sometimes I just say, right? Like,
okay. So
I wanted to send Monty a message. But then I hesitated. I was like, this is kind of weird. But I'm cheering. I feel like I want to play. Like, I wanted to be Drew Christo's teammate. This is this is a true story. I'm not making this up. And so I sent my buddy a message, and I was like, hey, how fitting is it that the guy that was off my line gets an opportunity to play such a key role in helping his team win a Big Ten championship? So, again, I'm going teammate, right? Not fan. Like, I wanted to be his teammate. And I knew that he wasn't super healthy. I said something before the season started, and I know this particular poster is he's the dad of a baseball player. Kind of comes across as he knows a ton, right? So people were wondering what was wrong with Drew, and I said, I think part of it will be building his arm strength back up, because I didn't want to say that he'd had the forearm injury. He had pitched in the fall league, and I just didn't think he was very healthy. And I said, maybe part of it is just getting his arm strength back, just getting some session. Nope, he's had plenty, this, that, and the other. So I didn't want to say anything.
I know more than you know.
No, because I didn't know if I did know more. I just know that I talked to the family.
Sure.
And I knew that his forearm wasn't. I knew that
it just wasn't right.
He just wasn't right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I didn't want to say that in a public forum, so I ate it. Whatever. And he struggled. Right. I asked Jared Meester. I read the stats, the last 20 innings pitched, which was a week ago, and then his last 2 outings. So I say all of that to say one of the reasons I love baseball is you could see that he was coming.
Yeah.
All right. I've seen this with like Joe Kelly. I've seen like everybody that has a favorite baseball team has seen guys.
I love Joe Kelly.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, he was a Red Sox for a little while.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I love him, but I like, if you take the bump enough times, you have to be able to overcome stuff like this. And so to see him do what he did, to keep that rotation intact. But then, so here's the kicker. And I didn't want to put this out on Twitter, but a couple of hours before the game, Drew was at the hotel. And I got to get permission to put this out. But when you see what he went through, to just get his body ready to pitch, which was what was going to be. There's the picture, which was going to be in about 2 hours. And to see him do what he did, like, that's why I cheer for baseball.
Yeah.
That's you go through an 0 for 16 slump or
Gabe Swanson.
Unbelievable.
What did he battle? You're like 215?
Yeah. And was supposed to and was taken out of the lineup. Like, if you would have said that Nebraska would be a 2 seed in a regional when one of their frontline guys is pulled from the rotation, you have 2 starters that don't even finish the season in the lineup that come back and contribute in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like, that's the gritty game, right?
Unbelievable.
It's why do I like Nolan Sailors? Why do I what is it about this sport that what do I talk about? Calixto, right? It's when you see these, he's been hurt, banged up, catching 20 some out of 30 some games. Baseball is a game where your mind is, and I'm not saying more important than another sport. I just know that in baseball and hockey, there's a reason why those sports are notorious for superstitions.
Yeah,
because it's such a mental thing.
I would say it this way, like, if you're not mentally right in baseball, you don't stand a chance.
Not a chance.
Like, there's other sports where, like,
guys can be contemplating retirement, and you could be Calvin Johnson and
still ball out
and then leave like the next day.
Yeah, like, you could
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, like, you can be a guy who knows you're done, but physically you can still do it. And like, if you're not locked in every day in baseball, it is a disaster. Yeah. And I do like, the way you put it about managing failure, right? That's one of the things where I think baseball can be one of the more useful sports, whether it's to apply to real life or whether it's to apply to other sports. Like, if you can manage the failure in baseball, like, I like quarterbacks that played baseball, right? Because then you can kind of manage like, you throw a pick, but you played baseball, you probably are going to be okay, right? If you were one of those guys that only ever played football, only ever played 7-on-7, not that football players can't do it, but you have to do it in baseball. If you're going to be good at baseball, and you have to do it.
And we've seen, and again, you're talking to a football guy. I just happen to love baseball, but it's like we've seen guys that haven't had much failure in football.
Yeah.
Not be able to function at a high level the first time they're dealt.
Yeah.
Some curveballs. And in baseball, you may hit 220 over 20, 25 at bats. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent would be in football, but that's not very good over that stretch, right? Yeah. That's completing 4 out of your last 20 some passes.
Yeah.
Right? Couple picks. Like, that will shake you.
So
baseball players manage that
all the
time.
Yeah, you probably go through 8 stretches like that over the course of a season, even if you're really good.
All the time.
The other thing that I really appreciate about
how does Sears get Player of the Year after last year?
Right.
You gotta go to work.
You have to, and mentally you have to be able to turn the page in a way that not everybody can do.
And it's so finite.
Yeah.
Head to ball, hips back. What does weight back really mean? Weight back.
Well,
spin rate. Throw. It's just like arm angles, arm slots. Like, the correction on the fly within the game within the game.
There's micro adjustments all the time.
It's incredible.
The other thing I really appreciate about baseball, and this is especially from the hitting aspect, is in order to manage that failure, you have to be process oriented, right? Because you can hit a ball on the screws. Like, you can have like 118 exit velo, and it goes right to the third baseman.
And you could do that multiple times in a row.
Nothing for it, right? You get 0 for it.
Unfortunately, I listened to Fernando Tatis a couple of years ago. He was going through what they would call a mini slump for him. He said, "Hey, I'm barreling the ball up.
Yeah,
over time, those will fall."
Like,
I think he was probably he was 2 for something.
Yeah,
but he was hitting the ball hard.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you can crush the ball and not get anything for it. You can do everything right and not get anything for it. So you have to be about the process.
I'm always going to take, if I'm in the lab building athletes, what am I going to take first? I'm taking mental toughness.
Yeah. You're going to take that. Then you get that from baseball players in spades. Coming up next, Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. You know, that kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
It was an amazing experience for our guys. You know, you don't necessarily think about it, but then you hear some of our guys talk at the end of the tournament, and they say, "Well, that was the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of." And It's like, yeah, that's right. That's true. I mean, we had 13,000 people there, and that's certainly a huge crowd, but you don't necessarily put that into perspective until you hear that from the guys. Like, yeah, that was the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of. So from that perspective, it helps. Although most of the crowd was cheering for us, in that ballpark, and hopefully we have some good travel from our fans to go to Stillwater.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's TV. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how are you this morning?
Hello. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, Sam, you sound a little subdued, man. What's going on?
Nothing. My audio went out for a second. It's a beautiful day.
It is, actually. Oh, all right. Let's
Yeah.
get the weather forecast. That's how we start. What's going on in the old Cap City?
It's great. It's sunny. It's cool. Just pruning my rose bushes outside.
Oh,
So, yeah,
do you
we're
have a green thumb?
Not really, but we have 2 rose bushes. So we just pruned them.
I hate to waste
I did.
I hate to waste our listeners' time on gardening tips, but considering I'm losing my mind over the amount of loose soil and remnants that are around our yard currently, nudge,
Yeah,
wink, winks.
you'd be wasting time on my gardening.
Okay,
I don't
so
have any
do you
different
are they enclosed? Like, is there anything around your rose bushes, or are they just doing their own thing out there?
There is nothing around them.
Okay.
They're just doing their own thing. Yeah.
What color?
And they're great. Now you have to prune it. You got to prune rose bushes though, because otherwise they die out and other things grow. And so, like, it's important to you can't just let them grow wild.
What color?
Let's see, pink and then a little white.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But no like hard red. No, it's not red. They kind of come in a little bit different.
That'd be
A little
too
bit of white.
predictable, right, Sam? There's just
Yeah,
no way
and
you're
you
rolling
don't
with
always
red.
know. They kind of change. There's different colors too. Like they change a little bit depending on where they're at in the on the plant. So yeah, a little bit of white and pink, and then there's some white pink tinge with pink. So yeah.
Sam McKewon, the man of many talents. I want to stay right there with baseball because I feel bad saying this out loud, but you can help me give this some context. I was telling Ravi, my opinion, this is a guy that watches a ton of college baseball. Florida had no business being a 3 seed, yet they're very capable of at least winning 1 and maybe 2. I can't see them having enough to like go through after a loss, but is that okay to say, knowing good and well that they could beat Nebraska, but I still don't think they should have been a 3? Is that fair?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. They have a good one swing offense. So what they do is they hit home runs. They don't score a lot of runs, but they can hit home runs. And so when you get in a park like Oklahoma State, how many runs does it take? Well, it might only take 5 if Jack Caglione pitches. And they might be able to put up 5 runs. Let's say Brett Sears, pitches 7 and gives up 2. Florida can hit home runs. And so, they are a team that doesn't really rely on anything except, the one swing. And the danger with a team like that is in a 1-game scenario, they can hit 3 home runs a game. So Nebraska's got to watch out for that. I think they've got to be mindful of those situations. They got to make Florida work. You can't walk guys. Obviously, you can't put guys on base. But this is a team where you got to be thoughtful about where you're putting your pitches and not putting them in places where they can just turn on them and knock them out. Because again, Oklahoma State's got a park, makes it pretty easy to go out. So that's a challenge for Nebraska. Yeah, Florida's, if you're comparing Florida and TCU's resume, TCU has 11 more wins in a pretty good league. Obviously, Florida had a really, really hard schedule, and
the 11 teams in for the SEC. I just don't know.
Felt
like
a bit aggressive.
it felt heavy for me, especially given.
Yeah,
It was interesting. I mean, South Carolina had get hot at the right time. LSU obviously went on their run. It was just a weird. The seeds really didn't hold. A&M, who was so dominant almost all year long,
kind of fluttered down the stretch.
Their last third of the season was quarter of the season was just okay. Baseball is such a brutal sport.
It is. I appreciated what Kyle Peterson wrote on Twitter, I think early this morning or late last night, about it's time to get rid of the regional 2-3 seeds, because I don't think that's very fair to some of these teams to have to face some of the teams they have to face. It's a tough assignment. For example, Southern Miss is probably the 18th or 19th seed overall, maybe 20th, and they got to go to Tennessee. And that's just kind of a raw deal for a team that probably deserved better than that. But beyond that, I think, on our little preview video that we did for the World-Herald, I predicted chaos. Like, I think it's going to be wide open. Maybe Tennessee, gets there and you feel good about them, but a lot of these seeds are not. I mean, the number 2 seed overall is Kentucky, and Kentucky also drew a ridiculous number 2 seed in Indiana State. It's very good, and Kentucky has never been here, and so they may not make it. And
you realize they were a 2 seed in their own conference tournament, right?
Yeah,
that's just
I mean that's the number 1 seed is the number 1 overall seed, so they're special for sure, but
they didn't play like it though. That's what I'm saying. It's
right.
like it's just a weird, fickle sport. I mean, ask Creighton, right? It's
for sure. I think there's a chance that you could have multiple number 3 seeds in the College World Series. I think there's a chance that you could only have 2 national seeds in the CWS. I think there's a lot of different things that could happen. I don't think there is a good explanation for the explanation that was given for why Arizona is as a national seed is that they won their regular season conference and they won their conference tournament. Now, I give them credit for the tournament, but they won their regular season conference in part because, Oregon State had some games rain out, which is just kind of a weird reason to say that somebody won a conference.
What's funny is I wonder at the time. No, that's fair, because I wonder at the time if they would. How we're kind of dismissive of weather games, whether they're midweek. Now this one was in conference, so it even further accentuates the point. But sometimes I feel like we're a little too dismissive of not going back to get meaningful games in college baseball. Just because the schedule is so crazy.
Right. I think the reason that Arizona got a national seed is they swept Louisiana Tech. And so much of what they're trying to do is based on rewarding teams for their decisions in the non-conference schedule. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, you can run into all kinds of complications as to why, and they talk about growing the game. And I certainly appreciate, that sentiment. We'll just have to see how it goes. I suspect, again, there's going to be a lot of chaos. I won't be surprised if 8 national seeds are out after this weekend. 8 of the 16.
We're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, how much credit do you give to Rob Childress for the way the Husker pitching staff was able to navigate not just the Big Ten tournament, which is kind of speaks for itself, but honestly, just the way they pitched down the stretch, whether it's Christo turning it around, whether it's getting something out of Jackson Brockett after he only pitched 5 innings all year, whether it's the year-long kind of transformation of Sears. Like, how much credit do you think we need to be giving Rob Childress here?
I think we should give him some credit. I know Tom Chattel wrote a column today about that, and I appreciate what was written there. And
we were getting all the Christie examples and references about a month ago, right? Well, it's the same. I mean, I heard it. I heard it all.
For sure, and of course they would love to have cemented a true third starter, which technically they have 4, 5 now with Brockett. I mean they have Will Walsh and Drew Christo. They can start, and they can be very, very effective in any number of circumstances, and so they've got depth for sure. They're not always consistent, but they do have depth, and that's what you need. You go through this thing, and LSU won the national championship last year, and Paul Skeens could only pitch 2 of the games. So you have to have more than just 1 ace, and I do think Nebraska has enough guys to put on the mound, and then somebody's got to make the pitches, and so you credit the pitchers as well. And then Nebraska's gotten just enough offense, a little bit more. Whether it's Josh Caron or Gabe Swanson, they've gotten just a little bit more offense when they've really needed it. And so now they go into the regional feeling just great. Now that can all change in one night. Again, if they put Caglione on the mound and he goes 7 innings and gives up 1 run, then everything's back to where it was. But I think Nebraska needs to feel really good about where it's at right now.
Sam, it's interesting too. My buddy Aaron, we were going back and forth this morning, and I forgot all about this because I was just talking about the triumvirate stories. And we talked to Brockett 2 weeks ago on the show, and he's like, you realize he wasn't even traveling for a lot of the year. Like, it's incredible. And that's why I kind of dubbed this team the Gritty Gang. It's just incredible how we do a lot of griping and complaining. And if you'd asked if they were a 2 seed in a regional at the end of the year and Big Ten champs, like we would have taken it. But do you remember all the hand wringing and consternation real time? That's what makes sports incredible, right? Because the expectation levels change and they're super fluid, but we were super hard on this baseball team.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes, again, one of the things about sports is, and this, is that it is kind of a bottom line event. And sometimes you get hot at the right time and you prove your process true. And that seems to be what's happened here. And there's no time like that moment to take advantage. Like lots of people could have said, well, they got to the final, Penn State was hungry. They wanted to make it. Nebraska lost. It's okay. They still can do it in the regional. And I'm like, no, this is it. This is the moment to win this tournament and make a memory that you're never going to forget. The Nebraska women's basketball team had that same moment. Now they were playing a much better team in the Big Ten tournament up there, but you just got to take the moment as it comes. Like you have to seize the opportunity that's in front of you. And Nebraska baseball did that. And again, they never take that one back. Like the regular season championships are great, and of course they mean something, and yay, but most people are not going to remember the 2017 and 2021 regular season titles. But everyone will remember what happened on Sunday. And so this team, again, it's hot. Now it is baseball. Things can change. Like you get up against a great pitcher on Friday, and nobody knows. Now, he may come in and lay an egg. It's entirely possible. I mean, they're really a cold team. They won't have played for 10 days. Who knows what will actually happen on Friday? But at this point, Nebraska's hot.
Are you surprised that they named Sears this early?
Oh no.
Okay.
Nebraska? No.
Yeah.
No. I think you do what you do. Paul Skeens pitched last year against Tulane, a 4 seed. Nope. You do what you do. You have to assume.
No, I meant that they were that matter of fact this early. Not that he's actually throwing.
No.
It just okay.
No, I think you just keep it on schedule, and you do what you do. And now later in the regional, they may need Brett Sears again. But you try to do the very best you can to keep saying.
I know one thing.
Normal, and
you get that first one. Boy, you are in cruise control with their depth. But I do like what you said though, because they can be inconsistent, but man, they got a ton of options.
They do, and he'll just Childress isn't afraid to lean on him.
I mean, we didn't even talk about Caleb Clark.
Caleb Clark is another one.
I don't think we said McConaughey yet.
Jalen Wordley has been very good, and he's not starter, but Jalen Wordley's done a nice job.
It was good to see him. It was good to see him on the back end the other day. That's kind of where I thought he would go because he's capable.
He is, and he's actually been pretty good.
Yep.
They don't throw him a ton of innings, but he's been consistent. Caleb Clark might have the best stuff on the team.
Got better down the stretch.
For sure. So they have a lot of people who have watched the team all season long or followed along. know how many pitchers they have, and also know that a lot of them are still relatively young. Like, they're going to be around for 2 or 3 more years unless they get drafted. Where I think Nebraska's gotten just a little bit better is just in making sure that they're not walking a bunch of guys. And on top of that, their offense has gotten a little better. Like Gabe Swanson was a non-existent back for months. And then for him to return the way that he has in the last 2 weekends is pretty notable, because that's almost like adding a player back that you didn't have for most of the season. And if he's back, that's a run per game. And that could be the run that wins in the region.
How about Karen not missing pitches? Like, I don't think people they'll look at the numbers and they'll say, oh, that's cool, that run.
Mm-hmm.
But in baseball, there's this thing, like when you get balls that you can drive. I remember good coaches will always tell you the difference between really good hitters and guys that just hit the baseball is they don't miss their pitches, right? That's what Barry Bonds did. When he got
the most amazing thing about Barry Bonds.
When he got a strike,
1 pitch a week.
It was annihilate. Like, Karen's ability to drive the ball with power when he had the opportunity, like, he just didn't miss.
Not in the Big Ten tournament, didn't. And he didn't really miss the weekend before
either. He was on a 2-week bender. Like,
yeah, he's been really good.
He was seeing that thing like a balloon.
Yeah, they needed that. They needed somebody on the offensive side of things to really step forward, and the way that Bryce Matthews and Anderson did last year. But that again, this is a team that's playing really well. I want to remind people that the number 1 seed in this region has choked many times in this scenario.
Wow.
They have.
Jinxie Smurf right there. You said it out loud. I thought it, so I'm guilty too.
They're
probably.
Good too.
They are
They're
good.
Good too.
They're good.
They've choked.
They're good.
Before. And they've really, they have not handled this situation well. They've hosted a ton of regionals, and they haven't emerged from any of them.
They got a great ballpark, though.
They do.
It's a little offensive for me,
but other teams like that ballpark too.
Yeah, it's a little too offensive for me, but it's a beautiful park.
Right. So we'll see what happens. I think Nebraska's got an incredible opportunity. I do think this. The other side of their bracket, they're not going to be playing Clemson. It'll probably be Vanderbilt. Clemson's another team that's really good at choking. And so the way this thing's set up, it's not going to surprise me if it's Nebraska and Vanderbilt in a super regional. And then you got to decide where, I don't even know where they go. You got to decide where the super regional's at. So there's a chance here that Nebraska's still playing baseball in Haymarket Park. I'm not ruling it out, because I don't think that the 6th seed on the other side is very good.
Oh, Sam, the eternal optimist.
I'm just trying to be honest. I picked Duke to win the College World Series. Duke.
Okay.
Who I think is a better team than Clemson. We'll see.
Offensively, they're it's
look at their run differential. Their run differential indicates that they are a top 7 team. Yeah. And why they didn't get a seed host, I don't know. It doesn't even make any difference. I think Duke's gonna tear through their small regional, and then we'll see if they're able to get to the CWS. But I think a lot of the seedings are all jumbled up, and I think Clemson and Oklahoma State are not among the top 8 teams. And so I think Nebraska's got a real chance there. I really do.
Yeah, we're talking with Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, there was a Parker Fleming on Twitter that power ranked the regionals, and it would kind of go to what you're saying here. Stillwater is in the bottom third of the toughest regionals for the entire tournament. Obviously, you mentioned Oklahoma State is fallible in these situations. Does that leave Florida as the team you're most concerned about in the regional?
No, Oklahoma State is still the team.
Okay.
They're still the team, and they could emerge. I'm not saying they won't. They've played quite good baseball this year. Again, I don't know why Oklahoma is seeded above them. Whatever, but I think Oklahoma State played very good baseball. I'm just saying that, they are not. They struggle in regional settings. They've not been great there, and Nebraska's going to be familiar with the park. They've been there before. I just think there's a chance. But I would have said that about a ton of regionals. I'll be really honest with you. I would have said that about Arkansas. I would have said definitely that about Clemson. They weren't going to Clemson, but I would have said that about Clemson. They have a real chance here. I think that they're probably the top team in the country, which is Tennessee. And then you've got a big jumble between 2 and 30. And they're all kind of the same. We're going to be critical of Arizona being a national seed, and I think that's fair. But I don't think Arizona's any worse than Indiana State or any. They're all kind of in a big jumble. And so Nebraska's got a genuine chance here. And again, all you can do is take the opportunity at hand. This is a team. I'm just saying that there is a reality. There's multiple. This is the multiverse. There's multiple alternate realities. And one of those alternate realities, Nebraska is in the CWS this year. And I just don't, they're going to have to play perfect. But if they do, they could make it, because I don't think that this is this isn't the LSU as a 5-seed year in college baseball. Like, that's not what this is. So,
yeah, how crazy was that?
Wow. Right. Last year, the best college baseball team that almost anyone has ever seen was the number 5 national seed last year. That's how good college baseball was last year.
Yeah.
It ain't that good this year. And so Nebraska's got a chance, and you're just going to have, this is the year. I think they kind of know that over there too. Like, this isn't the best team they've had. I think the team they had in 21 that went down and lost to Arkansas was a better baseball team. I really do. But it doesn't make any difference. This is the year where you have an opportunity to go all the way to the CWS. And I do think if Nebraska wins the first game, if they win it, it could be an amazing month. It's possible, but they got to win that first one, and they're probably going to have to beat a really good pitcher who doesn't need to prove anything to be a top 10 pick in the draft. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, people will look at his win-loss record and think, okay, 4.35 ERA or whatever. In college, that's pretty good, especially in the SEC. But he's gettable, especially when he leaves the ball up. Oh, yeah. And the multiverse, though, Sam, how about Nebraska going to Nashville for a super?
Like, any familiar faces over there?
I'm going to take a roadie and go see Dom Rizak at the old living spot and go watch a little baseball, man. That would be incredible.
One of the best cities in America, and they have a tight park. So Nebraska, when they went to the Music City Bowl down there, they practiced right next to the baseball stadium. Tight little park. It would be a great place to go watch a regional for sure.
Yeah.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald.
I maybe fast forwarded a little. I'm sorry.
Sam, we appreciate it. As always, we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care.
We've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Playing 6 games in a short amount of time, three games in 24 hours, basically. I mean, that's tough to do, and to win all 3 of them, impressive by our guys. So the way that tournament unfolded, nobody would have ever, chosen the first game to go the way that it did, but the response and the amount of games and the amount of experience we got after that was something we'll really be able to capture.
Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage, reminding you that wearing your seatbelt prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if you wear it properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Something that I'm not sure clicks with my guy, Jose Ramirez, is how good Barry Bonds was.
You're on him, huh?
Yeah. So if you didn't see, Jose Ramirez was asked about
who's arguably the best third baseman in
That's
baseball.
fine. That's
maybe
he's in the conversation at the very least.
Yeah.
He's top couple. Was asked about getting the
Devers, Riley.
I mean,
Bregman,
I'll take my guy
Henderson,
Rafael. I'll take him. But
there's some good ones.
there are some good ones. But he was asked about getting the Barry Bonds treatment against the Angels. Getting walked, whatever, all that good stuff. And he goes, "I'm better than Barry Bonds."
Shane's Manny Machado.
You know who's not better than Barry Bonds?
Anybody?
anybody. Not a soul.
Yeah. See, he's in the Pirates Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They put him in, I think, a month ago, maybe last couple of weeks ago.
That checks out.
Yeah,
that
was Little Barry Bonds.
Unbelievable.
Is he in the Giants Hall of Fame?
I'm sure.
I would guess. I don't know.
I mean, and maybe there's a statute. Remember, maybe you had to be gone for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's reached
like
that.
a waiting period.
Yeah, but if I'm San Fran, I put him in yesterday.
I'm just saying.
You know.
Can you guess what Jose Ramirez's career OPS is?
870.
You're close.
880.
It's a little lower. 854.
Okay.
Any idea what Barry Bonds' career OPS is?
Gosh, he had some average years where he was probably only in the mid 800s. I will say it's not 1,000. Jeez, let's go 1,020.
1051.
Unbelievable.
200 points higher. And you want to talk about those average years? He hadn't had one. He didn't have a sub 900 OPS after he was 24 years old.
That's incredible.
He went, and this is even more incredible. He went from his age 27 season.
That's incredible.
To his age 42 season.
Wow.
He had 1 year of a sub 1,000 OPS in that stretch.
I can hear the boo birds now, buddy.
No, hold on. Guess what his OPS was the 1 year. By the way, he was 41 when this 1 year occurred in the 15-year stretch. Guess what his OPS was the 1 year he didn't crack 1,000 in his last 15 years?
990.
It was 999.
Yeah, he's sick. Oh, he is. Would you take Machado over Ramirez?
No, because I hate Machado.
Me too.
He ended Dustin Pedroia's career, so he can kick rocks.
I can't stand him either.
Yeah. He can go do some words.
Would you take Devers?
Yeah, because he's my guy.
What about Austin Riley?
I'll probably go Ramirez. I gotta look up Devers' numbers because
very sick. I kind of I wouldn't probably take him over Ramirez, but Bregman is pretty sweet.
So they're
Austin Riley. Even Arenado, he doesn't hit like Ramirez though.
No,
right now.
I mean Devers and statistically Devers and Ramirez are pretty similar, like really, really similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about fielding percentage? Is anybody Brooks Robinson over there?
Nobody pays attention to fielding percentage anymore.
I mean, if you want to win a championship,
it's a flawed statistic. It's a flawed way of.
Oh, kind of like you war guys mad at me about hits saved when you're looking at shortstop play. Stop it.
I'm not talking about.
Oh man, I don't know if you look at Jeter, man. You know, balls that would be. Get out of here, man.
I mean, Jeter's overrated.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. That is 1,000% a worse take than Bo Jackson. There's not.
Yes, Bo Jackson is overrated.
I'm not getting into this.
No, I mean, okay, this is a Red Sox fan talking about Jeter here.
Yeah,
okay? I'm not pretending like he wasn't good. Yeah, he was fine.
He's elite.
He was fine.
Okay.
I will say I really appreciate him bringing the Jordan brand into baseball.
Yeah,
they got some pretty cool stuff. You ever seen like the Jordan 11 cleats, like the spikes?
Yeah,
those are phenomenal.
I would just like to walk around.
I know.
The turf version. I know I would wear the little things down underneath, but I'd rock those.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen like a pair of like Jordan 1 spikes, and I'm like, I don't have anything I could use those for, right? Because I want to buy them.
Go ahead, Shane.
I was just gonna say, by the way, going back to last week because I'm always on delay, and then going back to Jeter because
last week, dear God, Shane.
I know, man. That's even bad for you, and you had a vacation.
And you were talking about elite athletes with elite minds. Is Jeter fall into that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Elite mind. I don't know if he's elite athlete. He's
an elite mind.
Elite mindset. Yes.
I did want to bring that up, but you only had football players in last week.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I wanted to
Derek popped
introduce
into my
you
mind.
to,
So
you missed Doc Whitman, who was here on Saturday.
Yeah.
Our elite mindset guy, Max Out.
Yeah.
He's incredible. Bald guy, kind of yoked with glasses, little guy.
Oh, I think I saw him. I
He's
didn't
kind of standing.
I didn't meet him though.
Yeah, he's sensational.
Okay, so who's a baseball player with elite mind, elite athlete, like elite skill set or elite talent?
Eric Davis.
Mm.
He was a baseball prodigy. Ken Griffey Jr.
Ken Griffey Jr. is a good one.
No, see, you sleep. Hey, don't be poo-pooing my guy. ED came from Nathan.
Listen, that's fine.
God, he was so good.
But
he was pretty awesome with the Reds.
Like, he's not going to have, like, the career numbers aren't going to back you up.
No, I
there.
know.
Like, so that's what
I'm with you.
That was my hesitation. Like,
injuries, but I'm with. I'm not gonna do. You asked me I feel like I'm at home. What was the question that you asked me?
Elite talent and elite mindset.
Yeah, it doesn't get caveats.
Okay, but if I've got elite talent and elite mindset, I would.
He couldn't stay healthy.
Okay, that's fine. That's he's not really my era, so I'm gonna take your word for it.
Yeah. Currently.
I mean, yeah, I don't know who currently.
Elite talent, elite mind.
I'm trying to. I mean, I think Griffey's probably one. I mean, Bonds is probably one.
Yeah,
Bonds had the best pitch recognition I've ever seen in my life.
Just the stuff he can still. I watch. I'm kind of. I don't. He's never a guy that I cheered for, but I do pay attention because I do want to know what makes people great, other than clear or whatever people joke about. Like some of the drills that he would do with his hand-eye coordination that he could still do today when hitting baseballs, and his knowledge of how to use his body.
Yeah,
like he's elite.
So here's the other thing with Bonds.
He's a genius.
He's a baseball savant. Like the other thing with Bonds is mentally, I don't think people appreciate how locked in you have to be to know you're getting maybe one pitch a week to hit. Maybe.
Yeah, not fall asleep.
And never miss it.
I'm kind of back on that elite athlete, elite mind thing.
Baseball is hard because like the mental is so dramatic there. It kind of outweighs a lot of the things we're talking about. But we were talking about that with quarterbacks too, right? We brought up Brady, we brought up Montana, we brought up but like Peyton Manning's a great example.
And there are just some positions where I don't need you to be an elite athlete.
Yeah, and I don't, I that's why I use the term talent instead of athlete, because like, okay, you don't have to run a 4.5 to be a really good quarterback and a really talented quarterback.
Yeah.
You've got a bunch of other physical attributes, right? But, there are certain positions where the mindset's more important.
Yeah. Maybe it was just a week. Maybe Ramirez was just, I don't know, maybe he's on that Stan Van Gundy page. We're just saying outrageous things.
Just saying stuff.
I mean, do you think that Luka and Kyrie are the best backcourt tandem ever?
No, I do not.
It's amazing. It's almost just like they weren't around in the 2016-2017 season.
Oh, so by the way,
you don't even have to go back that far.
No, you really don't.
Would you take prime Luka, prime Kyrie over prime Clay, prime Steph?
No.
I don't think I would either.
Not in a million years.
Well, so it's different for you.
I'm biased. But I still would like.
I still think I'm getting more buckets and more efficiency.
100%. And Clay's actually Prime Clay is actually playing defense.
Yeah, I couldn't.
You're not getting defense out of either of Luka
I didn't
or
even
Kyrie.
have to go back that
No,
far.
you don't. You don't have to go back very far at all. It's nuts.
But now they say it every broadcast now.
No, they're a very good backcourt who's only played good together for about 50 games.
Hey, how would you like to be Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota? You realize he's a super max guy?
He may not be in Minnesota very long. I don't know who's going to take him, but
you sound like Caleb. Like, where is he going?
That's fair. That's the question. But I bet if they could get rid of him, they will.
Oh, that's tough. Don't bench him for 8 minutes.
We'll come back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
They don't. Not even when not even if you beat Liberty next time. If you beat Liberty next time.
Okay.
If you beat Liberty next time, will they rush the floor?
Why don't we just talk about Liberty since you brought it up?
All right. Tell us about Liberty.
Let's move on. Koloko with a second foul. Tucker
Liberty.
Campbell at the line.
If there was ever a misapplied name.
We're wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage and brought to you by our friends at Team Jack Foundation. Team Jack is trying to find better treatments for childhood brain cancer and one day a cure. Go to teamjackfoundation.org to donate directly to the cause, to get involved, to volunteer, to find events, however you want to get involved with Team Jack. teamjackfoundation.org has you covered. Get involved today.
My man Tony's messing with me again.
What's he saying now?
I don't know if you were around me enough back in the day when I used to have meltdowns over Puig.
You're not a fan, or you love him?
He drove me up the wall.
Why is that?
It was just a 2-cent brain. I mean, an amazing,
incredible talent.
Yeah,
Incredible
and I first loved him because he would tell these stories about coming over on the boat and evading sharks and stuff like that. But then my man would go to house games and play cards and lose $1 million in a night. So I was just like, yeah, this dude ain't gonna make it.
Yeah, not for me.
Yasiel Puig.
He did have one of the greatest half seasons in baseball history.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
He was an incredible talent.
Yeah.
My man Aaron is with me though he's a baseball head, so he gets it. He's
Davis?
on Eric Davis.
Here's the that's definitely one of those you had to see him type guys. because his numbers just aren't going to justify.
Just a sensational set of hands.
Yeah, like his numbers aren't going to justify what we see.
Yeah.
Right, or what you saw.
He was one guy that
ED.
Yeah, he was one guy that at the time you really wanted him to be on a better team.
I know. I did.
Because Cincinnati wasn't anything.
And how bad was their stadium? I hated watching games.
Oh yeah,
they would do like Twib notes in This Week in Baseball. I'm like, gosh, who's going to hurt themselves
what
first?
was that like?
Tim Raines in Montreal,
Three
or
Rivers? Is that
or Eric Davis in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
and in
those
Montreal,
AstroTurf, man.
in Montreal, all the turf, it was different colors. It would look like a checkerboard.
Yeah, it was like it's like those cars that like lose a panel and they like go to a scrapyard and find a different color panel on the car.
My man Nico is not happy.
What's that?
He said, I could hear him. This is his delivery too. He's like, steroids have been attributed to cognitive gains. The McGuire, Bonds, Sosa era was just different. I listen, I understand, but I can't discern because pitchers were on it too.
That's the thing, is it was a level playing field because everybody was doing it. Also,
and he still was significantly better than everybody.
He was still like era adjusted, competition adjusted. He's still the best.
Can I say
also? Can we just okay? So like, when do you think, in your mind, when do you think Barry Bonds started steroids?
His first year in San Francisco.
I think that's too early.
Do you?
So here's the story I heard. This is what I heard.
Did Andres Galarraga tell you?
Yes. No.
Because hey, he wouldn't even let the big cat sit in his chair in San Francisco. Does he not know who Galarraga is?
I did love Galarraga when
Me too.
I liked him when he was with the Braves and the Rockies. But the story that I heard was he saw
with the Rockies.
He saw what McGuire and Sosa did in '98 and went, "I'm better than those guys," and juiced up after '98. So
you're telling, yeah.
And I think that came out.
He went to his dietitian, and his dietitian found his boy at Balco.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Victor Conte, it's
a cool name for
it. Is a good name. It's a good drug lord name.
Wow.
So through 1998, he's 33 years old at that point. He's already won 3 MVPs. He had already played in 12 seasons. He had already had 8 years, 6 years, 7 years with a over 1,000 OPS.
Yeah.
He was a Hall of Famer before he touched a needle.
No, I know. I know. There's no question. There's zero question in my mind. No question in my mind.
He was a Hall of Famer before he ever touched steroids. Now, that took him to another level.
No question.
But he also, his numbers could be even crazier. You realize everybody stopped hiring him and he could still hit the ball. He could have gone to an AL team if anybody would have signed him.
Yeah.
And DH'd for 3 more years.
No, listen, I'm with you. I don't hate on Bonds. I'm telling you, I don't. I just don't.
He had a 1045 OPS at 42 years old.
No, listen, man.
He hit 28 home runs.
Can I get back to this though?
Sorry, I just
don't
hate on Bonds. I'll lose my mind.
No, I'm with you. But am I childish because I'm letting Van Gundy and Reggie Miller get under my skin with the best backcourt of all time?
No, because it's stupid.
You're vibing with me though.
It's idiotic.
I just pulled out a random on break. I hadn't even given it any thought. But are we sure? If Kyrie Irving and would you take Tim Hardaway and Mitch Richmond?
So that's not super in my wheelhouse, but I know they were really good.
Okay, how about
they were really, really good?
How about
I gave you one. Harden and Paul were better than these guys are. James Harden and Chris Paul were better than these two are.
Yeah. They're certainly in the discussion. How about Ginobili and Parker?
Oh, yeah. I'll take them.
So you know what? You see what I'm trying to think of a crafty guy like
you're
Luka,
trying to find a similar skill set.
Yeah. That's where I came up with Hardaway and Richmond.
That's a good one. But I'll take any back.
Certainly not Clay and Steph.
They're definitely not better than Clay and Steph. I also think you don't even have to go back to I don't know, was it Havlicek and Casey Jones or you don't
even have to go back that far.
That's what I mean. You don't have to do that.
You could take who played with Monroe in New York, the Knicks.
Oh, it's not Tiny, is it?
No.
Did they overlap?
he's the eccentric dresser. He does broadcasts. Full beard, older guy.
Walt Frazier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Walt Frazier
Hey.
and Earl the Pearl.
You could, yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, and they're just so matter of fact about it.
Yeah, it's stupid.
I'm like, stop saying it. Although maybe I'm their target audience and they just want to get under my skin.
I didn't know we were doing Stephen A. Smith broadcasts now,
God, is he an idiot?
It's not even.
I can't even.
Like, you have to at least give context to, like, they could end up being one of the best backcourts of all time.
Yeah.
Or, like, give me some sort of qualifiers.
And I know you hate the 90s.
I don't hate the 90s. I think people misremember the 90s.
Would you take Kyrie and Luka over Dumars and Isaiah?
Maybe. But it's definitely a discussion. But I think Dumars was not...
that's fine. But guess what? That dude made a living guarding Jordan. Think he could guard Luka?
100%.
Okay.
My issue is more.
We were so again,
like as one-sided as Kyrie is offensively, that's how one-sided Dumars is defensively. So like
Dumars could score. Get out of here.
He could score in the 90s.
Okay, before you look it up, what do you think Joe averaged tonight? Greater than 16 or less than
career?
16? Yeah,
less than.
Look it up. I am not going to stand for the Joe Dumars slander. Yeah, where are we at? Head tilt
16.1.
Okay, thank you. Shame.
I'm just sitting here with the no, you're right. All right. You're right.
I'm just saying
he did give me a couple 20+ points per game seasons. All okay.
I can't remember.
Eat that.
Was this Saturday or Sunday? We just, we barely left the house.
Mm-hmm. Probably Sunday, because Saturday you had the party.
Yeah. And we're watching, and even Micah's like, how is Luka just score?
Yeah.
Like he ran around. So was it Saturday night he hit the game winner?
Yeah.
So he's like, first of all, they were mad because Reggie was doing the whole play-by-play during this is one thing that Reggie did well. They did the whole play-by-play of what's going to happen with the high ball screen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get Gobert and why Gobert shouldn't be on the – like they walked through the whole scenario of actually before he even hit the game winner. And we're still wondering how Luka scores. Yeah. But he is so surefire. Like just pencil him in for 28 and 10, 25 and 10 for sure.
At least 28, yeah.
Right? And it's like it's not real efficient. It's turkey jerky.
More efficient than it would. Like if you just showed me a tape and I had to guess what the numbers were, I would guess lower efficiency than it is.
So can I make the? Could I? Okay, we got into
Does
this.
That make sense?
This went into the wee hours of Saturday night.
Yeah.
Could I make the case that given Kyrie's talents, he should be more efficient?
Yes, 100%.
Okay,
without a doubt.
Okay, that's. Because I'm like, well, I have to be honest because, of course, Caleb wrote, well, you just said the same thing about Kobe. And I did. Kobe should have been much more efficient.
100%. He took so many hard shots that he didn't need to. I think Kobe enjoyed the challenge of hard shot making.
Is it weird how, like, Kyrie actually looks like Uncle Drew now?
Yeah, he's kind of aged into
he
it a little bit.
Aged in a hurry. He looks old.
He does. But because his game
maybe it's just because he let his hair grow out.
I think it is. I think it's the long hair and long beard. I think that's the thing.
He looks old,
but he's got the advantage of he never relied on his athleticism, so he's going to be able to play for a while.
Yeah,
like Luka's going to be able to do this forever.
The old man crafty game.
Yeah, because he was been doing it since he was 19.
Did you see his step back that he hit on Gobert took about 16 minutes?
Yeah, it takes forever, and guess what? Nobody can defend it.
I just wish he'd stop falling down after every shot.
I mean,
is that too much to ask?
No, that's a reasonable ask. He shoots 47% from the field. For the shots that he takes, like that's pretty good.
No, I'm with you.
Like it's better than I thought.
I used to try to make the same case with Kobe. He's shooting the high 40s.
Kobe?
Yeah, for his
career, I think he's like 45.
I'll take the over slightly.
I'm going to go look it up. I want to say it's 45-7. We're going to talk to Aaron Fitt here in just a minute about not Luka Doncic. We'll talk a little college baseball.
We We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Well, you practice it by just having, drill through, just in practice, and you make that rep the most important rep of, of your life, in practice, and then you move on to do the next one. This practice, this weight session, this tutor session, this nutrition meeting, just handling all your business the right way, and you just stay focused. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. If you're not focused and you allow yourself to kind of just your mind to wander and think about things that negatively, I mean, that's the way the human nature, the brain works. So you just have to be intentional about it, and it's not easy. I mean, That's why everybody wants to win championships, and not everybody does. It's hard to do it.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're also live on KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we are joined now on the Hurrdat Hotline by Aaron Fitt of D1 Baseball. Aaron, how are you this morning?
I'm good, fellas. How are you guys?
I'm good. Have you? Are you rested or? I'd like to see them start that show a little earlier so I can get my grill game right, but I multitask and got the smoker started early, but it's a lot for you to comb through in a little bit of time.
Yeah, and it's always the end, kind of the end of a sprint for us all through conference tournament week. So, I'm kind of exhausted. I'm not going to lie, but we're going to rally. It's time for the games that really count now. And you're right. There's a lot to comb through, and we spent all this time kind of analyzing the field and ranting and raving about the committee, and now it's just time to turn the page and look ahead, and that's kind of the fun part.
How'd you pick your destination?
Well, I'm lucky. I live in North Carolina, so I got 3 regionals to choose from. I'll just kind of hop around probably between the 3 of them. I think for me, the marquee matchup around here is Saturday night in Chapel Hill. Potential LSU North Carolina matchup is very, very intriguing.
Let's stay right there, Fitty. And I get it. The top of the order is pretty incredible, especially once Johnson went to the lineup change. But how did LSU get this done, given the last third of that season?
I think it was just a matter of, kind of playing up to their ability. I mean, they underachieved for the first half of the year, but they always had talent. That was never in question. And it's just a matter of, settling in. And that's something that just we see in baseball all the time, right? I mean, it just takes you a while, and teams peak at different times. And that certainly seemed to be the case with LSU. I kind of thought they were just a little bit snake bit early. But they, once they started pitching better, and you mentioned, kind of tweaking the order a little bit, and it just felt like everything clicked into place. And Jay Johnson's such a good coach, such a good motivator. It kind of felt like he would find a way to pull the right levers at some point and get them going. And sure enough, I mean, now they head into the postseason red hot and looking like, the team we thought they would be heading into the year.
Okay, you said something, and I didn't want to steal Ravi's thunder for the next question, but I got to ask you, what is it about college baseball where there's this uncanny ability to get a coach that's really, really successful at another school, and another school can just hire them? Like, you don't see that near as much in other major college sports like you do in baseball. It's crazy how often high-end coaches can go someplace else.
I mean, I think that happens mostly when a high-profile SEC job comes open. I just think all bets are off for that, because it's just head and shoulders above everybody else, and that includes, I think the ACC is a great league, and has a lot of really good coaches and programs, and it's just a clear number 2 league in the pecking order. But the gap between the ACC and the SEC when it comes to just the whole thing, the feeling big time. I mean, it's just a little different, guys. And I know the whole it just means more thing. People mock that, people hate that, but it's different. It's just different.
Hey, Aaron, let me ask you this, because we talk about LSU playing well right now. Obviously, Tennessee gets the number 1 overall seed. Is there a team kind of outside of the super high profile ones that you just really love how they're playing right now?
Boy, I mean, back to the ACC for a second. Duke is very interesting. They look great this past week, even without their top 2 starting pitchers. They went through and won the ACC tournament 4-0. Liked what I saw from them. Oklahoma State is a team that, again, I'm just picking teams that won their conference tournaments, but I mean, that team came together really, really nicely at the end of the year, and they have more pitching than most teams do. You're going to Stillwater for regional, probably going to be 800 runs scored, so maybe it doesn't even matter if you can pitch. You just got to hit more home runs than the other guys. But they're certainly playing well at the right time. I know Arizona won the Pac-12. I'm maybe a little bit more concerned about them being gassed a little bit. And they got a tough regional coming up. Keep an eye on Dallas Baptist if you're looking for somebody who's not a 1 seed. I think that's an Omaha caliber roster. I thought so when I saw them early in the year, Frisco Classic. And they kind of played their best ball at the very end, and they really look like in Omaha. I mean, they went 44-13. They had a great year. They were pretty consistent, but they feel like they're peaking at a great time, and that's a dangerous team heading into that Tucson regional.
You brought up Duke and how well they played in the ACC tournament. Do you have any concerns about the team that they waxed in that title game in Florida State and how they're playing coming in?
No, actually, I feel pretty good about Florida State too. Again, part of it is just how healthy are they on the mound. I think a big boost was getting Connor Whitaker back going again. They lost 2 of their 3 weekend starters midway through the year. And Whitaker, they've kind of worked back into a bullpen role, and he looks good in a bullpen role. I don't think they're going to use him as a starter right now, but that's given them a little bit of a boost. Can they get their other guy back, Cam Leiter? Again, if he comes back, he'll just be in a bullpen role for now. But, I mean, it's a big-time arm that could really be a difference maker for them on the back end. But I think their offense is truly elite and versatile, extremely disciplined, powerful. It's a very, very scary Florida State offense with superstar power in the middle. You got 2 first-round picks there, I think, with James Tibbs and Cam Smith. And then, of course, you got something that most teams don't have, and that is a true bona fide ace at the top, and Jamie Arnold, who is going to be a very high first-round pick next year. So that's a good place to start.
So it's interesting. I want to go back to, obviously, with Nebraska being there, I want to go back to Stillwater and the park that they play in. Obviously, I think a lot of people – and I said it was hard for me to say this, knowing full well they're capable of beating Nebraska, and in that one-game scenario. I never thought Florida should have been the 3. They'd won the 4-weekend series in the SEC with the losing record. They'll have been off a while, but I know they're capable. How did you process the 2 3s? How do you get into the seedings actually when you look at these regionals? It's tough.
Yeah, it is, and it's not the easiest job to try to balance these things out, because the goal here is competitive equity throughout your regionals, and that's kind of impossible to do. But you can, sometimes they do it better than other times. How do you slot these teams so that maybe if you give somebody a really tough 2 seed, you balance it out with the 3s and the 4s, or it's a fine line to walk. I thought that the Stillwater regional feels pretty balanced to me. You've got the 4 seed there, Niagara, who's whatever. I mean, it's a MAC school, but it's for MAC, we had a good year. They had almost 100 RPI, and then Florida should be a 3 seed. I mean, just based on the team they had. If they're in the field at all, it has to be one of the last teams in. Even though the committee did not apparently have them as among their last 4 in, which is wild. But yeah, I mean, it's just look. Hey, if I was putting the field together, I wouldn't have put Florida in. I don't think they had a good season.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
They played a great schedule, but they went 13-18 in their league. They finished 1 game over 500 overall. They were not good at all in the midweek stuff. They're non-conference. It's not just, they played in the SEC. They had the toughest SEC schedule. I mean, cut them a break. That's fine. But, I mean, they weren't good in non-conference either, I mean, I don't understand all the excuse. Well, I do understand it. They had a man on the committee, but that's another story.
Let's stick with the SEC there for a minute. The SEC set the record with 11 teams into the field, including that Florida team. Did that seem, I mean, it sounds like you didn't think Florida should have been in. Like, what was the right number for the SEC in your mind? Is it 10, or was that still even a little heavy?
Yeah, probably 10. I mean, I thought heading into the week last week, I did not like where South Carolina or Vanderbilt were either. But they both did some things in Hoover, and I thought played their way in. And Alabama, they went one and done in Hoover. Another 13-17 team heading into the league, but their resume is pretty good. I mean, they've got some really high-end wins, like Tennessee. The only team all year that won a series against Tennessee, for instance. And it's just I felt like they had done enough that they couldn't be denied either. So yeah, I think 10 is probably the answer.
I asked KP this a couple weeks ago. We were talking about Tennessee, and you and I both know Botello has been here before with some highly touted teams, and they're the number 1 overall this year. And I used the word pressure. He was a little reluctant, like saying, I don't know if I'd call it pressure, but at what point do you think Tennessee needs a breakthrough?
Yeah, it feels like this would be a good time for that.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, right? I mean, this is the second time in 3 years they've been the best team in the country, and we'll see if they can cash in. That said, the best team in the country usually doesn't win it all. I mean, it almost never happens. The number 1 national seed winning it all. And I mean, last year LSU was preseason number 1, and certainly by the end of the year they had kind of risen into that form. But for the bulk of the season, I mean, Wake Forest was clearly the best team last year.
Mm-hmm.
They had the best season, and those teams went head to head in Omaha in that epic game. It was a coin toss, but Just because you're the best team doesn't mean you should win it all, but like they're certainly going to have a pretty good chance because they look really good.
As much as you wouldn't have made the case for 11 in the SEC, would you have attempted to make a case for 4 out of the Big Ten?
I don't think so. I thought they had a great year. The Big Ten, I mean, it was a number 4 RPI conference.
Yeah.
Which does matter, and I think that helped Indiana get in as a 55 RPI team, which is usually kind of dicey. But I just don't see a 4th team that had a case. Just based on the metrics they use, RPI being one still that's very important. There's nobody else, besides Maryland, who's in 11th place. There's nobody else in the top 65 in the RPI. I mean, that's not going to get it done.
We're talking with Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball. Speaking of RPIs and kind of perplexing decisions based on those, Indiana State was the number 10 RPI in the country. Not only do they not get a national seed, not only do they not host, they get sent to the number 2 overall seed in the country in Kentucky. Yeah. Did anyone get a more raw deal this year than Indiana State?
Yeah, that's a tough break. I mean, and the thing is, if you just compare their case to East Carolina, I don't see how you can make a case for East Carolina over Indiana State as a host. I mean, East Carolina, they're very similar profiles. They both won their regular season conference championships in these mid-major leagues. Missouri Valley was, I think, the 11th ranked league, and the American was the 12th ranked league. So Indiana State's conference was slightly better. Indiana State reached the title game of its conference tournament. ECU did not. Indiana State won its league by 5 games. ECU won its league by 2 games. And of course, Indiana State 12 spots better in the RPI. They're number 10. I mean, you're number 10 RPI team. ECU is 22. Makes 0 sense, frankly, for them to reach for ECU over Indiana State, especially since ECU has serious health issues on the mound. We don't know what their status is. Basically, their 3 best arms are all question marks. It makes no sense. And so, again, except it does make sense because East Carolina had a man on the committee, and Indiana State had one last year. And they don't anymore. So there you go.
Talking with the great Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball. Fitty, if you were kind of doing word association, what comes to mind when I say Georgia?
They're super offensive, and obviously Chuck Cotton would be the first, I guess, the first thing that comes to mind. A superstar, as we all know. But there's more than that. I mean, they've got a lot of guys around him, and that is a very, very scary offense. And they kind of figured out the pitching a lot more than I thought they would in the second half of the year. And so, I mean, it's a team that nobody really expected much from heading into the year, and I don't think they should have been a top 8 seed, but certainly, in the top 10 national seeds, they had that kind of a season, and we'll see if they can actually break through and get to Omaha.
Aaron, every time you get to Omaha, the locals here kind of pick their fan favorite, sort of a darling of the series. Is there a team you look at, either by the way they play or because they're kind of an under-the-radar team, that you identify as like, yeah, that's a team that if they make it to Omaha, people are going to love?
Yeah, interesting. I got to tell you, I think this Duke team is really fun with the personalities. Just going back to those guys for a second. I mean, I always look for personalities. Wake Forest, once again, people seem to like that Wake Forest team last year. They've got some of those guys back that are just really easy to root for. Just those are a couple of programs that I'm around a lot. I think if Oregon State gets there, Omaha always goes bonkers for the Beavers, I feel like, but Travis Bazzana is just a magnetic superstar. I mean, it's, if you ever talk to this kid, it'll blow you away. I mean, he's just the real deal, man. And I hope college baseball gets a chance to see him play in Omaha, because I just think that would be really, really, really special.
It seems like they're buried because they're over on the left coast, and next year they may not even have a conference. And I get it with Irvine and Nicholls State and Tulane. It's not sexy. It seems like Oregon State is better than the national attention that they get. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think we give them a lot of attention, being a national media outlet. I think we cover the heck out of Oregon State. But, yeah, I mean, they're really good. I think certainly if you're in the SEC, they're out of sight, out of mind up there in the Northwest. And so if you're just an SEC baseball fan, then maybe you don't know much about Oregon State, but they're really good, guys. I mean, it's, a team that we liked a lot heading into the year. We thought they were clearly the class of the West. You can argue that maybe Arizona was the class of the West because they won the Pac-12 regular season and conference tournament, but I still think Oregon State ultimately is built to get there. I just think that team is loaded.
Aaron, who's the most vulnerable 1 seed?
That's another good one. I mean, I guess I'd say it's funny. I just was talking about Arizona, but I just think they have the toughest regional. I mean, and again, I think talking with Mike Rooney earlier, and he thinks maybe there's a few red flags there, just with again, maybe being a little bit exhausted on the mound, maybe a nagging injury here or there. I would say Arizona. I would say East Carolina.
That's my choice.
Yeah, I just think we don't know what the deal is with Trey Savage. He's their All-American ace. He's dealing with a collapsed lung.
Yeah.
Didn't pitch in the conference tournament. We have no idea if he's going to pitch this week. I mean, they sounded optimistic, but who knows?
And they get Wake.
And they get Wake Forest. So you're probably going to have Chase Burns waiting for you there on Saturday night. I would think that's how Wake's going to do it. That certainly feels like it favors the Demon Deacons there.
I want to go to the NC State, Bryant, James Madison, South Carolina region, because I actually think that's pretty tough to pick. The team with the best record is Bryant, and I know you don't go by records, but my point in saying that is they seem the most clumped together, and I have no idea what in the world I'm ever going to get from South Carolina. Second half South Carolina or first half South Carolina. But I do kind of like James Madison, and it has been a James Madison kind of year. Who is winning that regional for you?
Yeah, it feels to me like it's one of the top 2 seeds, and I haven't decided yet.
NC State or SC?
Yeah, NC State or South Carolina. I mean, it's just I don't think it's a vintage NC State team. I mean, it's not like they've had teams that have been a lot more talented. The team that got to Omaha a couple of years ago was a lot more talented. But this team, they just win. They've got 5 really high-end series wins that just leap out at you. And they've had, their share of injury stuff, and they've made it work. And on the mound in particular, it felt like they were playing great for a while here down the stretch, and then they kind of laid an egg at the conference tournament against Duke. So I don't know. South Carolina, I mean, you mentioned them. I was very uninspired by that team for most of the season, but at the very end, in the conference tournament, they starting to look good again. So who knows? Like you said, who knows what to expect from that team?
Aaron, if you've got these fans who kind of start tuning into college baseball this time of year, who is a must-see, can't-miss pitcher and hitter that you would advise people you got to tune in for?
Well, I mean, I'll give you the 2 pitchers that I think are must-see are Hagen Smith and Chase Burns. I think
Burns for sure.
Yeah, they're famous guys. I mean, they're going to be the top 2 pitchers drafted. Hagen Smith for Arkansas is just probably had the best season of any pitcher in the country, and it's ridiculous stuff on the left side. He'll show you 99 with a unhittable slider. With this ridiculous deceptive low arm slot. It's good luck. And Burns, the Burns experience is well documented. I mean, he's made that transition back from being that bullpen weapon for Tennessee into being the ace for that Wake Forest staff, and it's 4 real pitches. The slider again is just like top of the scales, unhittable, ridiculous pitch. And I was talking to some longtime national scouts the other day who said it's the best slider they've ever seen. At any level. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, those are can't miss guys. You mentioned Bazana and Condon are obvious guys on the hitting side. And there's so many good hitters. Vance Honeycutt from North Carolina. I mean, you might strike out 3 times and hit a grand slam and do a home run and steal 3 bases. Yeah, it's power, it's speed. He's the best defensive player in the country. And
it seems like he's been there 34 years, but he really hasn't, right? I mean, he broke onto the scene as just a freshman. It's like I love watching him attack the plate.
Yeah, he's very, very fun to watch. But like I said, that's the one knock on him is there's going to be strikeouts, but I mean, he can hit a long way. I mean, he's had multiple 20 years now in his 3-year college career. I mean, what a fun player.
Let me get you out of here on this, Fitty, because there are teams that, whether it's Arkansas and those arms that they can run at you, or A&M, like when they're playing well, people forget how good they were for portions of this season. Of those 2 1 seeds, who's the most dangerous?
I guess I'd say Arkansas, and I hate saying that because I picked them to win it all heading into the year, and I've stood stubbornly by that most of the season just because of the pitching. But I feel like their pitching right now isn't what it was, and they've had to kind of remake it a little bit late in the year beyond Hagen Smith, it feels a little more vulnerable now than it did. And so I've got my eye on that. But that said, they're so tough to beat at home, and they're going to be home until Omaha. So I feel like it gives them a chance maybe to get some momentum in these next 2 rounds. And once they can get to Omaha, I think that's a team that's built to win there if their pitching is going good. So I think Arkansas would be shocked. A&M I'd be shocked if they don't get there. I just think they're just really tough to beat, man. They're really good.
That's Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball. Aaron, we appreciate the time, and hopefully we'll see you up here in a couple weeks.
All right, guys, you got it.
Thanks, Fitty.
That is Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball. Make sure you check out all of their stuff. They do a great job over there. We talked to Kendall recently as well, and hopefully we'll see the boys up here for College World Series.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get super offensive-y in Stillwater, because that
probably doesn't lend itself.
But I know, right? But you're two teams, at least on the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Florida and Nebraska, they play a certain way.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida is capable, again, of hitting long balls, but they're not – that's not 10 runs a game type stuff. No. So I hope it's played a little bit more like traditional baseball. Now, there's all bets are off with Okie State, but he's right. Their pitching depth has kind of come around, but it is such an offensive ballpark.
Yeah. There's these – yeah, I'm trying to think of what league it was. I think it was
it's not like running up the hill in a Big Ten conference game like you do in Indiana.
Yeah. Well, that's
Michigan State, I should say.
That's like an offensive.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is. But there was this, I think it's the California League in minor league baseball. It's like a level A league where you just can't take any of the hitting numbers seriously, because everybody that hits there, like every stadium in that league is like a little bandbox.
Yeah.
And so like I remember Creighton player Zach Dagas, he was drafted by the Red Sox, and he was putting up these crazy numbers at like Lancaster, and I'm like, oh man, this guy might be like. And then I found out like what the California League was, and I'm like, oh, like those are good numbers for the California League, but it's not like he's gonna be in Boston anytime soon, like it was. And that's nothing against Zach Dagas, like he had a really great career, but you have to take some of the numbers with a grain of salt in some of these stadiums, and unless you know it, like it can be a little deceiving what's going on there.
Isn't it crazy how in baseball so many great coaches
just
I still call them coaches in college. Yeah,
like Schlossnagle,
or Jarrett. There's just a ton.
Yeah, all the time.
I just
hopping like from power program to power program.
Yeah, it's
odd, and it's not like a Jim Calipari situation where they were about to fire you anyway, right? Like
allegedly.
Yeah, I mean they weren't going to fire him. They had just said that, right? That's anyway. Coming up next, we've got more Hurrdat Sports Radio here on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Party on. It's a wonderful day. It's Oregon. The sun was out. Come on. So I got a shirt for the new football coach.
Tom Herman.
Tom Herman, yeah, from Houston, right? He brings me a shirt. Keep Austin weird. We're going to do our best today. Maybe I'll just skip down right here.
Bill is taking his shirt off. Thank you guys for not showing Bill, who isn't wearing deodorant, taking his shirt off.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and, of course, KFOR in Lincoln for this third hour. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and I'm reminding you to get to unionomaha.com to get tickets for tomorrow night's match. It's part of the USL Cup. It is a 6:30 p.m. start at Warner Park for the One Means All Community Night against Central Valley Fuego FC. Get to unionomaha.com to get your tickets today. Get your tickets today. The match is tomorrow.
Today?
To this day? To this day? Anyway, so we're watching a little French Open here.
Yes, we are.
Which I know you were very excited about.
Back in the day.
But one of the, I know not everybody who listens here is a huge tennis fan. That's okay. But one of the biggest athletes we've had in the last 20 years probably played his last match at Roland Garros yesterday in Rafael Nadal.
You talking about biggest as in greatest relative to their sport?
I mean, like worldwide fame, he's probably up there.
Okay, that's fair actually.
Like American,
that's not crazy.
American, I get he's not in the same conversation as some of these other guys, but worldwide, he is probably one of the most famous athletes in the world. And he kind of unceremoniously got dispatched in the first round yesterday. He's obviously had injuries he's battled injuries a lot, but he usually kind of found a way to get up for the French Open. He's got 14 titles there. 14. I asked you what his record was there off air.
It was incredible.
It's the dumbest thing I've heard in a while.
I said 104-13.
And you were off by a lot. He in I think 18, I believe this was his 18th French Open.
Which is funny because I guess, what did I say?
He had 16.
I said, what's that? Probably 16 or 17 years?
Yeah. He's played in 18 French Opens.
Straight?
No.
No, I think he missed one.
He had the bad wrist.
Yeah. But he played in 18 French Opens, including this year. He has lost 4 matches ever. 4 matches. His win percentage is 96.5 at a major.
He's got the career Grand Slam.
He's got the career Grand Slam.
You realize he won a French Open 17 years apart?
Yeah.
He won in 05 and he won 22.
Yeah. The only, can you imagine how many more titles Roger Federer would have?
I can't remember
if
why
Nadal
he came up the other day.
Federer?
No, Nadal. And I go, gosh, if he wasn't he was wound so tight. He was thin, but he was really muscle bound.
Yeah.
Like he always had all those soft tissue injuries.
He
like
carried
ligaments,
a lot of muscle for a tennis player, especially a tennis player with his frame.
And I'm just like, why did he come up last week though?
We were talking about boxers, and then I did an Andy Roddick thing, and
I think it was off air though, because I remember walking in front of the double doors.
Maybe, but yeah, we got into a whole tennis thing, and so I just, I think about when guys come to their end of their careers like this a lot because, it's usually a really difficult transition for guys, especially guys that have been successful at that level, right? Where right now he's ranked 275th in the world. Like obviously there's not 274 players that are better than he is. It's just that's how the point system works because he hasn't been able to play. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. And so, you kind of watch him yesterday, or at least you see the stuff on social media, and you kind of I always feel for athletes that are kind of going through a transition like this because for so much of their lives, this is all they were, especially tennis. You start tennis early. And if you play as long as Rafa did, he's like 38, I think.
Comparable or no to what Tiger's going through?
Yes, it is.
It is.
But you know what's weird about Tiger? And I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I think the car accident helped him in the transition. Because
I got you.
Because
it weaned him off. He almost didn't have a choice.
It took the pressure off, right?
Yeah.
If he doesn't have the car accident, he's still going to try and limp out there and chase and jack and trying to get those extra majors. Whereas the car accident,
he's kind of become. It's not a sympathetic figure because he would hate that.
No,
but we understand why he's not good.
And it's kind of allowed him to move on to another phase of his life.
Yeah.
Right. He's moved into
his kids.
Yeah. The coaching Charlie and having those cool moments in the pro-ams.
Telling us that his daughter hates golf.
Yeah.
Still loves him. Yeah.
But and that wouldn't have happened without the car accident.
Yeah.
Not for years. Right. We kind of saw it with Kobe and the Achilles too. The Achilles kind of allowed Kobe to transition into start transitioning into the next phase of his life.
Completely agree.
Where we didn't see that with Jordan, right? It took Jordan 15 years to even seem a little happy after he retired, right? We all remember the Hall of Fame speech.
And there are those that'll tell you he's still miserable.
Yeah, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he seems happier than he was, right? I don't know if the second marriage helped, whatever.
Just bought a new boat.
No, it helped a lot of us in terms but
Does it still hurt the sport as much as it did before when somebody like this leaves? Comparable to the 80s.
Tennis has had a hard time transitioning.
Yeah, they've still got Djokovic is still
number one
at that level,
yeah.
right? And then you've got
even though he's
a
fairly
controversial figure.
He's fairly unlikable within his sport.
Yes, more so I think by players than fans.
I know. I'm in agreement.
I think fans
he's extremely
still kind of like him.
Yeah.
But then you've got really good young players like Alcaraz coming up that I think are going to carry the torch a little bit. You had Sinner win the Australian Open back in January. But like I think it's really interesting watching these guys and how their lives sort of transform as they near the end of their careers. And and honestly, it reminded me of something else that happened this weekend, which is.
I thought you were going to say Klay Thompson.
No, although I have all sorts of feelings about Klay Thompson, but it reminded me of something else that happened this weekend in the golf world where we had this really tragic situation with Grayson Murray.
Yeah.
And where he putts out on 16, removes himself, withdraws from the golf tournament, and then he goes and commits suicide. I imagine that night they find him the next day. We find out on Saturday that he passed away, and then his family put out a statement that he committed suicide. And I know that's a weird kind of thing to bring up within this conversation, but I think there's similarities in the way athletes sort of process themselves, right? Like Grayson Murray is a guy that had early success on tour.
Yeah,
had a PGA win at 23.
Yeah, and he already had two tour wins.
Yeah, and then he got another one, but there was a long gap in between.
But the last one was fairly recent this year in Hawaii.
January, I think.
In Hawaii.
And so you've got this really strange kind of dynamic where, and we've talked about this with Nebraska guys before, where athletes so often find their identity in what value they bring to the sport, right? And I think that's why guys have such a hard time when they retire, because they don't know who they are. They literally have no identity outside of the sport. And then I think, obviously I don't know what was going on in Grayson Murray's life. I know he had struggled with mental health. I knew he had struggled with substance abuse, although I believe he'd been sober for a while. So people thought he was doing better, but that doesn't really change the way sometimes we look at ourselves and how we identify us, right? And so I look at a guy who like a Grayson Murray who, I saw some asinine tweet that was like, oh, well, why would this guy do this? He's got all, he's a successful golfer and whatever.
Yeah.
And I hate stuff like that, right? Because
I used to hear that all the time about Lawrence, and obviously having dealt with a lot of that in my own personal space. You just never, and I try not to get defensive because you don't know what you don't know, right? But it does elicit certain feelings because some people mask things
incredibly well, and you have no idea.
Yep.
And it also, like, no amount of external circumstances can fix what you haven't fixed it internally.
Yeah, because
right.
I would tell the story, and maybe it's a lot of why I am like today, right? Where I just went through a stretch of so much shame where I would like get dressed and shower in the dark or I'd run past the mirror.
You didn't want to look at yourself.
Because I didn't want to look at myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like you never know.
And
maybe that's why I don't open blinds to this day.
I do want to kind of return to this idea of like how athletes process themselves, because obviously the Grayson Murray thing is tragic and the Rafa thing can be emotional on one side, but I do think it applies to a lot of athletes that we see still playing today. And we'll get into that next as we wrap up the show on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. And we're brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. You can go to the Horsebook, or the Sportsbook, not the Horsebook, the Sportsbook in Lincoln or Horseman's Park in Omaha to place your sports bets. It's the best place in Nebraska to do that. And you do want to do it in Nebraska. Keep your money over here. Let Iowa do their own thing. We're Nebraskans. Let's do our thing. And our thing is Warhorse Sportsbook. You can place bets on nearly every major sporting event. If you got questions, go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook for a full list of details and house rules. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. I wanted to jump back into the conversation we were having before the break, kind of about like the identity crisis that a lot of athletes have, either as they retire or throughout their careers, kind of in the context of both Rafael Nadal and Grayson Murray, two emotional but very different situations over the weekend, obviously. But I think one of the things that I was talking with my buddy Jake last night. He's a head coach down in North Carolina, and he's the one who sends me all the gear.
Yeah, I noticed that.
The backpack. There you
I
go.
see that.
Go Bruins. He listens a lot too, so he'll appreciate the shout out. But
I always ask you about the
gear,
yeah,
the yellow quarters.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you always think I'm wearing like Bellevue stuff because it's Bruins on it.
I just like the
bear's cool. It's a good logo.
The bear.
Yeah.
Before you go real quick, can I just ask one question about this situation?
Absolutely, Shano.
So like in golf, there's these like cliques or like friendships that like a bunch of golfers may have with each other, you know, like 4 or 5 different groups or whatever. Is there the same thing in like tennis?
I would imagine
I would
the
guess.
media and the guys like. So did you see Nick Kyrgios was on a podcast last week or week before last?
Nick Kyrgios is a great example of what I'm about to talk about.
That's interesting because I listened to him.
He's an interesting dude.
Okay. So full disclosure, I'm still not sure if he's just emotionally immature or he's crazy like a fox.
I think there is some emotional immaturity there, but I think there's also a growing self-awareness.
I think he's just so bound and determined to be his own guy and learn on the fly that he's willing to take what comes with it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last week, right? Like if he's willing to walk into a decision and live with the consequences, right? He's willing to say, hey, this is how I would like to operate, and I can live with the results of it, right? And the reason I said he's an example of what I want to bring up here is Nick Kyrgios might be the most talented tennis player in the world.
He's certainly in
physically. He might be the most talented tennis player in the world.
Can hit. Yeah,
he's a freak athlete. Can hit every shot. Is
huge serve.
Unbelievably talented.
Yeah,
right. But he has decided his life is happier if he doesn't do the typical tennis schedule, and he plays when he wants to play, and he does things his way, right? And part of the reason I think athletes struggle so much with transitions in their lives, whether it's a transition from Grayson Murray people thinking he's going to be this bright and shining star in golf to just being a regular good professional golfer, to Rafael
as a top 5 amateur in the world.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. To Rafael Nadal going from the best clay court player we've ever seen to losing in the first round to Zverev. I think it was Zverev. Yeah. To like, you have to be incredibly ambitious as an athlete, right?
Man.
And ambition is generally the opposite of contentment.
Well.
Now, if you can find a way to be content in your current situation while still being ambitious enough to grow and improve, that's like the golden ticket right there, right? But they're almost exact opposites.
So I think, and this is totally off the fly because I didn't know that, like, the depth, but so sometimes I think in athletics, we confuse content with complacency.
Yes.
And the contentment for me, as I would describe it, where I'm okay with what's going on, usually is how it makes me feel. Like the difference for me is the end game on the feeling.
It's internal.
Right?
Yeah.
The complacency thing is where I'm not motivated to do much else because, and I can't
for
give,
whatever reason.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't give
for
it
whatever reason.
A reason.
A lot of there's different reasons for each people, right? To be complacent.
But being content means that I feel like I'm okay.
Yeah.
So one has a positive kind of end game, the other not so much.
So the way that I look at it, right, is we generally see, and this I think is the only way to balance it. We generally see ambition as needing to be externally validated, right? I need to do this so people think this about me, or I need to win this so I'm at this level in the rankings, right? External validation. Where contentment is entirely about internal validation.
Well, okay, I got it. And I like that because I'll tell you the difference. I was talking, he was back for a episode on Big Red Wrap Up with Nebraska Public Media where I was talking to Adrian Martinez.
Oh, sure, yeah.
After he left. And one of the questions that I asked him while he was on air was dealing with kind of the highs and lows and being kind of the poster child.
That would have been a guy that would have been really easy for him to get to a dark place.
Okay, so the way that he described it, this was after leaving, and he talked about the loss of his dad and like the magnitude of where that hit him in his life versus playing sports and people saying good things about him that didn't know him versus people saying not very good things about him that didn't know him, and how he came to a place of being okay with it because he understood his own value, like what he had brought to the table. But here's one of the other things, though.
You hit on a key word right there.
Here's one of the other things, though, and I say this, and sometimes it's why I'm not fun to deal with in relationships, because I feel like I've been at the bottom, right? So anything that happens, I feel like I can get through it. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. It can come across as though I'm too competitive or I don't have feelings or whatever. But what I'm really saying is it's not going to get any worse than this for the time. This situation is not this.
Yes.
And I've been through this and this and this and even this. So I can deal. I have a frame of reference of failure.
It's
right.
Again, I don't hate to keep bringing it up, but it's the near miss versus remote miss. You survived something and you now feel not invincible, but you're like, I can survive.
Well, I
anything
certainly
else.
thought it was going to be hard to come out of the back end of a couple.
Yeah. And then once you do, everything else seems like, oh, I can survive that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason, like, you hit on a key word there is value, right? How do you value yourself, right? When you're talking about Adrian, that to me is how you can live with both being content and ambitious, right?
And he's 22.
Yeah. Like super mature. For
I was like, it's like 8:10. I'm sure you have to get home, and I had to drive back to Omaha. But I wanted to I'm like, we're gonna have to sit down sometime, right? Because just he was just so frank and matter of fact about dealing with what people would see, what other people would view as like the depths of these lows.
Yeah,
and he's like
these knockout punches, right?
Yeah.
He's like, but here's the thing is, and we've talked about this with other guys. We've talked about how, like a guy like Betts, who wanted to feel valued outside of football, right? And that is so important. Maybe we don't love how that situation went down, right? Maybe we're like, oh man, like Coach Rule said, if he was my kid, I wouldn't have let him quit. And I believe that, right? And I believe it would have been better for him if he hadn't. Yeah. But I also really appreciate someone whose identity is not entirely what they do.
Yeah.
Because that's where you get into trouble here.
The run boy run and perform kind of thing it is very, very hard for athletes that haven't developed a sense of self-worth
outside of that,
of anything else, because it's all about please perfect perform.
And what happens when you can't run anymore?
I know.
Because it always happens, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're 14 and you get to high school and you don't think you like, or
I talk about this with DJ all the time.
Or you're 40.
Yeah.
Right? Like at some point the running stops. Who are you when the running stops? Right? Because if you haven't figured that out by the time you have to stop running, you're going to be in some trouble.
Go listen to Roy Jones on why he was boxing at 48, 49.
Because he doesn't know who he was.
Taking competitive fights.
Because he didn't know who he was outside of boxing.
He just what was his value,
right?
It was him and his chickens.
And it's not even just athletics, right? You get it with academically minded people too. We see this, like the suicide and mental health illness rates in like Asian countries for students, for academically driven people, are off the charts because it's the same thing. Their value is derived in how they can perform. Now it's academics versus athletics, but it's the same thing.
Right.
If you don't have intrinsic value just by existing, then at some point you're going to have a really hard time because
you're going to become a victim of whatever the outcome is.
The thing will end, right? And so you have to learn to understand there's value in just trying. And until you can learn that.
You can tell you're pretty passionate about that too, because it comes up in a lot of other instances through sports about how we at some point have to recognize, Nebraska wants to turn the corner, right? That the effort, maximum effort and being the best that you can be at some point has to be enough.
It does. And you have to be able to live with the results. That's one of the reasons I love the way Coach Rule operates so much.
Yeah.
Because he talks about process, he talks about maximizing, and he talks about players as people, right? Because at the end of the day, whether it's in football or academics or baseball or doing a radio show or golf or tennis, if you can do everything you can, but you've got your own self-value, you can live with the results. And that's what you have to be able to do. Unfortunately, we had a tragedy over the weekend where
keep showing up.
Grayson Murray just felt like he couldn't show up anymore. And our hearts and thoughts go out to those people who, whether it's Grayson or anybody else who've been affected by that. I hope you get the help you need.